With a mission to deliver fiscally responsible, highly dependable services to the citizens of our community and the region. With integrity and professionalism, this is the City of Albany Commission Meeting with Mayor Bo Duro, John Howard, Ward 1, Mayor Pro Tem Matt Fuller, Ward 2, BJ Fletcher, Ward 3, Chad Warbington, Ward 4, Bob Langstaff, Ward 5, Demetrius Young, Ward 6, with Interim City Manager Stephen Carter, City Clerk Sonia Tolbert, and City Attorney Nathan Davis. This is the City of Albany Commission Meeting.
Good morning. Welcome to the August 3rd, 2021 work session of the Albany City Commission. Mr. Harper, can we begin by calling the roll, please?
Yes, Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2.
Here.
Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4.
Here.
Ward 5.
Here.
Ward 6.
Here.
Mayor.
Mayor's here. We have two speakers signed up this morning. The first is former Commissioner Robert Montgomery. Good morning, Mr. Montgomery.
Good morning.
Would you like to come forward? And if I could, could you keep your comments to 5 minutes, please, sir?
I'm gonna try.
Okay. I will let you know when you have 1 minute left.
Okay. All right, come, my sister. Yes, not my assistant. She's my. I'm president. Was president of the Easttown Subdivision Neighborhood Watch, and she was vice president. So I beat my brains out trying to do something with this ward, and I got tired, so I told her we'll swap positions since she was younger than I am. But that's not why we're here. There's a lot of problems in East Albany that we've been neglected for years, and I had been planning to meet with you all for some time now. Matter of fact, the previous city manager told me that she was going to have a meeting with us over in East Albany, but she left. Be that as it may, we have a lot of problems. It was 3 minor things that brought me before this body this morning. And they might seem minor, but one day I was sitting out in the driveway under my garage. A cat came up the driveway. It might be my, and so I'm not a cat person. So I called the non-emergency number, and they say, I want to speak to animal control. They say, animal control don't do cats. You have to call Humane Society. I called Humane Society. I didn't get any action there, so I left my number with somebody, and somebody supposed to call me back. They never did. So that was one, the minor thing. So a few days later, a cat got killed in the street. It's a cat, again, right up from my house. In the middle of the week, all the city vehicles drove by that cat 4 or 5 days while he decayed in the street. I made a couple of calls, and they say, the last call I made was on Friday, I believe it was, and the lady kept telling me that she'd have put in a work order for it. So then I told her that I need some action on it. And let me speak to somebody with authority with the police department. She connected me with somebody with the police department who was supposed to have some authority. And they told me that the work order been put in, the cat will be picked up on Tuesday, the day after the 4th of July. So can you imagine a cat sitting out there in the sun all this time? So I finally took it on myself to go out there, pick the cat up and put him in a bag and put him in the trash can. I digest that pretty good. I just grateful it wasn't a mule. But, and then, the day after the holiday, I'm sitting out there in my favorite place, and I heard a dog barking in the backyard. 2 lovely dogs, beautiful dogs. So I was going to go over and check them out and get the tag number and call the owner. But I found out they were vicious dogs. They were pretty, but they were vicious. So I got my camera out and took a picture of them, and I came back. I called the non-emergency number again. The lady tells me, and animal control. She wouldn't connect me to animal control. She said, Mr. Montgomery, the Humane Society is filled up, and animal control can't pick up any more animals. So I said, ma'am, these are vicious dogs. They're going to bite somebody. She said, Mr. Montgomery, I told you that animal control is not picking up any more dogs because Humane Society is filled up. This time I kind of got a little pissed. So I said, lady, I'm gonna shoot these dogs, which I wasn't gonna shoot the dog. I said, I'm gonna shoot these dogs. I hanged up on them. So in 3 minutes, I got a call from Animal Control, want to know my address. Well, they came and they pursued the dog. Not one unit, but 2 units. 2 units showed up. And she tell me that they wasn't picking up any dog because Animal Control, Humane Society hadn't put them. Now this tells me.
1 minute, Mr. Montgomery.
This tells me that the Animal Control was picking up dogs, but they wasn't picking up any in the East Albany. That's the only thing that explained that to me. And that what brought me here to address you all today. Now, she tried, after me giving up power to her, she tried to do something. You tell them what you tried to do.
Since February of 2020, I have been diligently trying to get speed humps put on Don Cutler Senior Drive. We were approved in February 2020. Nothing has been done. I later called a meeting with my constituents, October 2020. Still, nothing has been done. And I do understand that Don Cutler Senior Drive is a thoroughfare, and a lot of emergency vehicles go up and down that road. They're coming in for emergencies, but eventually they're gonna take out us in a hearse. I have almost been T-boned because people are flying up and down Don Cutler Senior Drive from one end to the X 24/7. I am so afraid they're gonna come into my bedroom window. They don't care about you, me, or nobody else. So this is things we've been trying to get done. And the neighbors are calling me all the time. We also need a police precinct in East Albany, 24/7. We have a precinct in East Albany, but there's never anyone there. We need a 24/7 police precinct in East Albany. We need security cameras. This would deter a lot of crime. Nobody cares about us, but we care about everybody. And this is something we need done.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I want to get back and say one more thing before I know we're over time on it. But we've been trying to run a neighborhood watch. And unless we get support from you all and from the department head, a neighborhood watch is nothing but a social gathering. You talk about stuff and you report it to your commissioner or whoever and get nothing done. So we're tired of that. So I'm calling y'all attention more that you all going to have to do better with East Albany. Now I'm making a plea or a challenge that you all who ran on a ticket to make Albany a better place, get together one day and get on a bus and tour East Albany. Come over there and see for yourself what's going on. Bring the city manager and folks that with authority and tour East Albany and see what's going on. And at the same time, bring my favorite meteorologist, which we're always referring to Albany as the good live city, bring her along so she can see it too. We are pleading for your help over in East Albany. Thanks for your time. And I know I ran a little over, but
Thank you, Commissioner.
thanks for being
Montgomery.
patient.
Excuse me, sir. Hold on, Commissioner Montgomery. Any questions, Commissioner Howard?
Thanks, Mr. Montgomery, and my good friend for bringing these issues to light. I share your sympathy. I understand, and I'm well aware of a lot of the issues that we encounter. But what I have started doing since COVID-19, I have what you call in my ward a walk in the ward with department head, the city manager, the mayor, district attorney thing, and we look at some of these eyesores. And I agree with you 100% that neighborhood watch, unfortunately, have turned into be like a social gathering or sometimes a gospel concert. What we are dealing with, and I will say it when another come aboard, neighborhood watches, since I've been here, have been in the past have been made up of senior citizens, those that are 50 years or older. But most of the neighborhood watch are falling apart now because this is my assessment, is that you are in the neighborhood talking about an issue like dirt bikes or running stop sign and find out that a lot of those individuals that are doing those activities are probably being raised by the grandmother or the grandfather, and senior citizens are afraid to say anything because they say, well, I'm a widow and I'm by myself and I got to live here. And so it's a traumatic problem that exists not only in East Albany, but I'm going to say nationwide, I'm going to say worldwide, because trying to instill in the millennial generation things that we knew to do when we was coming up, what we take to be a serious issue, it's just like water running off of a duck, that they don't care. And I share your concern, I share your pain, I know your issue, and I'm well aware is that we got to do something, because like I said, we are senior citizen, and unfortunately, the clock is ticking for us, but I don't know the solution to getting neighborhood watch back together intact during the era of this COVID-19, because a lot of folks are still afraid. I'm too afraid. But I wish you well, and some of the things y'all do talk about, and Ward 2, I would say continue to call your commissioner and let him know to come and just do a site visit or just walk in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, great brother. I want to say this too. You all call us down here once a year, and you buy us some donuts and some coffee, and then we don't see anybody from the government anymore. And we go out there and we try to get problems solved by calling our commissioner, calling Public Works, calling the police department, and now they got the machines now that pick up instead, and you never get a chance to talk to anybody. I think sometimes it's easier to talk to the White House than it is to talk to the person here in the city. You got one jewel of a person here, and that's Sissy Kelly. I love her. She's a very kind person. But I want you all to do something when you take this tour of East Albany. Start at Coast and Clark, which is a good neighbor, and go east down to Maple and view and see for yourself some of the things. Come through my neighborhood, see some of the things. I could point out some of them now, but I have somebody knocking on my door next week. So you all go and see for yourself and address these problems. Thank you all very much.
Any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No further questions.
No questions. Thank you for speaking with us this morning.
Okay.
Well, sir, Mr. Montgomery,
Yeah.
I do, and the lady, one thing I do want to say is the most compelling thing she said is that she doesn't feel like anyone cares about East Albany. I was raised off East Broadway right around from Coates and Clark, so that's You know, I live in Northwest Albany now on 12th Avenue, and everything that you have just said, I promise you, I'm getting the same complaints on 12th Avenue and Whispering Pines and Stewart, and we do have our problem. The speed bumps, it's amazing what we put you through to get a speed bump and then what it takes to get that speed bump laid. I agree with you that we do need to open that precinct. In fact, I assume, Commissioner Howard, that it is open because somebody told me the other day that they had a meeting with someone at that police station on,
It's open, but a person got to have, one of the police officers got to open it. You know, you want to have a town hall meeting, neighborhood watch.
And speaking of town hall meeting, I'll tell you who we've reached out to, Mr. Willie that has Putney, which is, you know, to me, he has a tremendous neighborhood watch. Him and Miss Judy Bowles are putting something together where we can do a community neighborhood watch so we can once again maybe get people back in the habit of going to these neighborhood watches because these people just aren't coming out. But everything you said, but I do want y'all to know that we do care. I don't think there's a person sitting on this commission that doesn't care. It seems like, it might seem like we don't care, but I promise you, I don't know of a commission. I get 40 to 60 calls a week and try with all my heart to get around and eyeball the situation or make the calls. And these department heads, there's not one department head from the city manager on down that I can't call and say, I'll give you an instance. I'm looking at Albany Housing. We need speed bumps all around that parameter because these people driving these Chargers and these Mustangs, they've just absolutely have made a raceway track out of them. You would think the one that got hurt the other day or killed on Westover, that would slow them down. They're running stop signs. They're having no respect for nobody. You can't go to your mailbox. You're scared to get your mail. And I have said if it's going to take a senior or a child to get killed for us I mean, we are looking at this as just, this is the government, and it is just the slowest entity I have ever run across is being part of the government. But please don't leave here, either one of y'all, thinking that we don't care about y'all, because I know that Mr. Howard and all of us, what we talk about sometimes in executive sessions or private sections, we are trying with all of our might to address this with very little manpower.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
What they'll do, she tried her best to get speed bumps on and they sent her to house to get signatures. She went through all that. Then they still denied it. And then I saw in the paper, everybody that wants them getting them, but we can't get them in East Albany.
Are you getting the signatures?
These are the things I'm talking about.
Are you getting the signatures? I mean, I know, I think it's crazy that one person has to get out here and get 70% of the signatures. I think that, I don't see why we can't put our traffic calming devices out there, and if it's needed, it's needed. And then when you get up in the neighborhoods and these people rent, then you've got to hunt the owner down. I'll agree, you're not going to get any argument with me that the speed bump policy needs to be changed.
The wheels don't turn in East Albany like they do in other parts of the city. That's why I'm here till now. We have a different process that they go through with us. And we're tired of it. So I'm down here this morning to serve notice on you all. The thing's going to get better in East Albany. Thanks for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
hold on, Commissioner Montgomery. Mr. Warburton, any question?
Mr. Montgomery, thank you so much for coming. I will tell you, so the last few weeks in my ward, we started holding our neighborhood watch meetings again and town halls. And, you know, when we scheduled them, I thought maybe 5 people would come. But we had 40 and 50 people coming. Citizens like yourself are ready to start engaging and come back out. And so I would encourage you, if your neighborhood in the next month or two wants to organize again, that's really what a lot of the neighborhoods are starting to do now. I know we've kind of had a spike in COVID here this week, but that's a way to kind of get engaged again as a neighborhood and invite. You know, what we had was we had staff come and they left there with a lot of follow-up from the neighborhood watch meetings that I had, you know, from alleys and this and trash, you know, and that's just a way to get staff involved, is maybe have get back into some kind of regular meeting and invite the city manager and public works and our chief of police can't, and code enforcement, and that way they can get exact follow-up from your neighborhood.
Now, a neighborhood watch, we call a meeting, and residents will voice their concern to me. And then I can't handle them. I go to the police chief or either public work or somebody, or my commissioner. Where is that today? He's absent today. I go to him, and I don't want to talk about that because somebody think it's election year and somebody be thinking I'm running for office. No, I'm not running for office. I'm here to make a complaint about East Albany. And anybody have any more questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
one other question, I guess this is for staff. Was the Humane Society, were they closed in July again? I don't know if. I know we've had issues. They were closed, open during COVID and some other issues, but I guess I didn't know if they were
I'm
closed.
not sure about a specific date. I can check. I've taken notes about everything that was said here
Okay.
today. We'll do some follow-up.
Okay, but that's certainly a concern, Mr. Montgomery, so staff will follow up on the whole animal control, humane, because we've had issues with that previous in the year, and that's concerning if we can't take in any dangerous, vicious, dogs like you stated, so.
If y'all promise us some support, we'll reorganize our neighborhood watch because it is dead. If you have folks coming to a meeting every month and they get nothing done, they're gonna stop coming, but eventually they get tired of exchanging problems within itself. They expect you to do something. And if you don't get nothing done, it's gonna die. Thank you all.
But, yeah, thank you for coming to speak. That's it, Mayor.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No questions.
Commissioner Young.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Montgomery, and I do recognize your sentiment that it appears to a lot of people in town that a lot of things happen quicker on one side of town than they do on the other side of town. But please just keep advocating for your community and making sure that we're abreast of any shortfalls in service, because as I've been going around to my town halls, I've been taking our department heads with me, and we've been directly engaging our citizens, and the citizens have been letting them know where the issues are and where their problems getting city services in their neighborhood are. So that's definitely something we want to continue to keep an eye on. But thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you all very much again.
Let me just say, there's some issues here and long-term decisions, but first I want to ask Mr. Carter if we can look in about the speed bumps, because I was actually at a meeting at the police department, and that's when we learned that the problem with the speed bumps is that the ordinance read that whatever percentage of the homeowners had to agree. And on Don Cutler, the stretch of Don Cutler Senior Drive, there were not even that percentage of homeowners. Most of these homes were leased, and some of the tenants had been there 10 years or more. So actually, the ordinance was changed. And I mean, one problem was that some owners wouldn't even respond to the request. But the ordinance was changed specifically to address the situation on Don Cutler Senior Drive. And my question would be, why hadn't we moved forward with the speed bumps on Don Cutler Senior Drive? But you don't have to give me an answer today, but let's get that done, because of that would be one positive thing that came from today. But some other issues I just want to say, not only to Commissioner Montgomery, but to the citizens at large. People are frustrated, and I think somewhat unfairly they want to blame the city. We are understaffed. Now, the thing about the precincts, that was a decision. The city actually had various precincts throughout the city, but then when we built the the law enforcement center over here, the idea was to consolidate everything, which in retrospect, I think we would all agree was a bad decision. But that is why precincts throughout the city were closed when we made the big investment in the law enforcement center. The situation with the animal control is a little bit more complicated. I don't know the details, but I do know that we had fairly good working relationship with the Humane Society for many years. There was a change in leadership, a change in philosophy, and I think the Humane Society is in a period of transition. Does anybody know if that's correct? So, but that's a situation we need to correct, Mr. Murray. I mean, there's no excuse in a citizen calling and then being advised, well, the Humane Society isn't taking any. I mean, we need to make provisions, especially if we got a vicious animal out here on the street, to get that animal off the street. Yes, sir.
It's, you just can't get it done. Somebody from the police department told me on Friday, it'll be the day after the holiday, which is the Tuesday, that this animal would have been picked up. That is foolish.
Well, I'm concerned, Commissioner Montgomery, when you say that you saw city employees traveling up and down that road and we're moving past a dead cat and nothing got done. But, you know, we'll look into that. And I just, we need to have a policy that if any city employee notices something like that, that it's going to receive immediate attention.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Anybody riding in a city vehicle most likely got a city phone. If he can't do it or she can't do it, they can connect the source of the city and say, hey, a dead cat is on Don Cutler. It needs to be picked up. I mean, there was no reason for that cat to stay there that long during the holidays, Mr. Mayor, particularly during the holidays. And like I said, suppose it had been a bigger animal, everything probably would have been the same. I can't stay here all day with y'all, but y'all take it.
Okay.
I'm glad you all allowed me to come before y'all, and I'm sorry about the 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Montgomery. We're gonna look at it and we're gonna get y'all some answers.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Mr. Terry Lucas. Is Mr. Lucas with us? Good morning, Mr. Lucas.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Fine, thank you.
First of all, I want to say that I got the petition filed here. It's going to take more than 5 minutes to address. I have 2 different issues on it.
Well, you got to limit it to 5 minutes, Mr. Lucas. We'll, so if you can just
do what I can in 5 minutes, pretty much.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Well, let me start by saying that I have went to the extreme discipline to get you elected. I went from door to door to ensure that people was enlightened on how to vote and how to go about submitting their vote to that you can come into power and have our mayor, Dr. Hope, removed from power because she have done nothing here for the city, according to the people that I spoke with. So I'm going to bring this petition to your attention this morning about police brutality. The reason I bring it to your attention about the police brutality is because nothing never been done about it. Nothing never addressed, the issue never addressed. And the way that I see these issues is that the black officer here have committed murder, have killed people here, citizens here in Dougherty County. And these issues never brought to the light. It's like it never goes worldwide. If a white cop kill an African American, it goes worldwide. But here in Dougherty County, I noticed that every police brutality or assault on a citizen here, it stays right here local. It never goes outside of Dougherty County. And not to mention the one that just occurred May the 21st, 2020, of Mr. Ward over here on West Gordon. You know, that was unnecessary killing. That was an overkill. And it was like, it went to the Governor Kemp. He addressed the issue. And then I was noticing, then it come down to the chief of police, Michael President, said one thing about the issue because the governor made contact to commissioner here about this crime committed about Albany Police Department, then everybody wants to speak up about it. But it seems to me that don't nobody really care because it's blacks on black crimes and it's a pattern of showing that, hey, they do this to each other all the time. Why should we be concerned? I'm concerned because I'm African American. I'm concerned because we are the people that vote these commissioners in power. They're not serving, they're not doing their duty responsibility to look into the issue, to attack the issue, to let the public know what's going on with these issues. Why is our children being assaulted by these officers? And I have several people here that have been killed by these same police officers. No charges have been brought against the officers. People like Mary Ann Riggins. She was killed over here in 15. She had a knife in her hand, and she dropped the knife, and an officer still opened fire on her. Unnecessary killing. That's what you call overkill. And this issue was never brought to the public attention. It was like it was a cover-up. Greg Edwards threatened the people, if they come before the court and they make a statement about these issues, then they're going to be charged with perjury, and people are scared because they're on probation parole. 65% of the young African American here and female on probation parole, so they're scared to speak out. So we depend on y'all, our commissioners, the people that we vote in power, to speak up for the one that doesn't have a voice. And then when these issues are addressed, seeing like these commissioners here tuck their tails. They are not to be heard, they are not to be found, and don't nobody care. And it shouldn't be that way. And I have other issues here where they killed Henry Lee Cole. After murdering him, it was a cover-up. And even when the parent and the family member went to address the issue to Greg Edwards, he threatened them. And it was like we don't care if you come up here and make this statement about Henry Lee Cole being murdered and Sarah Riggin right over here being killed, that you are going to be charged. And people are afraid because they don't have the support and they don't have the money to afford these high, powerful lawyers to protect them. And so only people that they have was each other. And I tried my best to get people to come out this morning and address these same issues, but they're afraid to come out because of the lack of concern from our commissioner, the lack of protection that they are going to receive. So what are we doing here?
1 minute, Mr. Lucas. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
it's an ongoing problem here with Albany Police Department. And it kind of upset me the most is because, and when we see these Caucasian officers kill African Americans, not only does it go worldwide here in the United States, it even go outside of the United States, like George Floyd, which was necessary to change the world, to bring these issues to attention of our commissioner, to people that's empowered to address these issues. And this is what I'm doing now. I'm bringing these issues to your attention, to the commissioner's attention, which I have also brought to Ms. Fletcher's attention way before it brought to the remaining bounds of the commissioner board. And we have discussed these issues, and I look forward for her being a part of seeking justice for these people. And I have received support from her, and I don't understand why, and that she's just seen the list.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lucas? Chris Howard.
No question, Mr. Lucas, but good seeing you again.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No questions.
Ms. Fletcher.
Well, I do have a few comments, and Mr. Lucas is right. We've communicated, and I've read your letter, and there was a lot more in your letter, but you are given 5 minutes, so I'm going to address what you were talking about today. And it doesn't make it right, but the Cole murder was in 1992, and Mary Riggins was in either 2006 or 2007. But I went back and I asked our chief just what's the activity of our officers in the last 10 years. I just backed up 10 years. And in the last 10 years, and I'm going to read it to make sure I get it right, no one has been murdered by our officers in the last 10 years. We've had 2 who were killed after they attacked Mr. Lucas, our cops. 2. Again, 2's too many, but they were attacking our officers and they were defending themselves. In the past 10 years, we've had 4 officer-involved shootings with the police department. In the last 10 years, we've had more people shoot at the officers than the officers have shot at the people. So I'm telling you that's facts, you know, and when you get up here and talk, it just sounds like we're just out here just shooting away at people. But I won't, you know, that's the stone cold facts. Now, do we have things that we need to work on, Mr. Terry? We absolutely do. But I don't want you or anyone to leave here thinking that we are just absolutely out here just letting our officers go rampant. Those are the facts, sir. Thank you, Mr. Terry.
Well, I understand exactly what you're saying, Ms. Fletcher, but it's not that. The point is that it's being ignored. It should be brought more to the light and then to the same treatment that the white officer get. You know, if he kills someone and it goes United Statewide and worldwide, I feel the same way that if an African American commit a crime against African American or maybe other race or nationality, it should be publicized and it should go outside of the United States as well, cover the United States. That's what I'm saying. It seems like when it does here, it's like it's a local thing, it's covered up. Like the one just occurred here, May the 21st, 2021. Mr. Ward here, 23 years of age. He was gunned down right over here on Mercer Avenue by the Albany Police Department. And you didn't hear a thing about it. It just stayed local. You know, don't nobody hear about it. I even called my sister and brother in Philadelphia, said, Miami, or did y'all hear about the police killed the guy here in Doherty County? They said, no, we haven't heard anything about that. But I said, did you hear anything about Rasheen up in Atlanta? Oh, yeah, we heard about that. You see my point?
Well, a lot of that is your media. I mean, we can't control what, you know, media puts out. We do hear a lot of, seems like we get tons of coverage of what happens in bigger cities. I agree, because most of the stats that we could probably tell you is probably from bigger cities. I don't know why something that doesn't happen in Albany, Georgia doesn't get reported, but then that's something that, that's just what media chooses to pick up.
Well, shouldn't our commissioner get involved, or someone get involved to ensure that these cases are being heard, not only in Doherty County, but other counties and other parts of the states within the United States, perhaps worldwide, because these are human beings too. And these people have loved ones, have lost loved ones, and others have lost loved ones, as too as George Floyd and so many others.
Well, what happens, like I'll give you an example. We had an incident last week, and I just, you know, especially if it's on the weekend and you pick it up and you're not real, you know, I get a little thrown off when one outlet covers it and two doesn't cover it. We have, you know, 4 main outlets here. We got South Georgia, we've got Albany Herald, we've got Fox, and we've got WLB, and then we've got radio stations. But it's out there, but it's the Associated Press that gets this, and they put it out where they want to get it out. That is their choice, that they don't send it to Atlanta, which is our main one.
Who is the Associated Press here that responsible for
Well,
that?
No, our media, our Albany Herald, is, if you look real closely sometimes and you'll look and see who writes stories, it'll either say by staff, which 9 out of 10 times is staff up in Atlanta that's passing the story on, or it'll say by Carlton Fletcher or by Alan Malden. It'll tell you different ones. And then look real closely and you will see that a lot of the stories that we get from the George Floyd incident, or, you know, what's happened over in other, it'll be from the Associated Press. We have no control of, if the Associated Press, if Carlton Fletcher does a piece on an incident that happens here in Albany, he sends it to Associated Press, which is Atlanta, Georgia. Nothing we can do to make Atlanta or anybody pick it up and go out worldwide. There's nothing we can do, sir.
I understand that to a certain degree.
Yes, sir.
But now, this point is I don't understand. Then this incident that just happened, May the 21st, 2021, Miss Ward over here on Mercer. He was shot and killed by Albany Police Department. Why didn't it go outside of Doherty County?
Is the chief here today?
Why didn't it go outside of Doherty County?
Okay, wait, let's get through.
I mean, can we get him to answer that?
Let's get through the
Okay,
question with
okay.
Lucy. Let's
All
do
right,
that before
thank
we
you,
start
sir.
getting an argument about it. You finished?
Oh, yes, sir.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Wolverton?
No comment.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No question.
Commissioner Young?
All right, thank you for your comments this morning, Mr. Lucas. You know, I've been in office for a little more than a year now, and I was unaware of a lot of the things that you were talking about. And just, you know, in trying to answer your question, I guess a little bit, you know, in the context of, you know, the things that we've seen in the cases like George Floyd and Mike Brown throughout this question of police brutality, is really a question of justice. And what justice is trying to find where the right is in a situation. And what I mean by right is the right thing happening, the right thing being done. And if there is a question of justice in these situations that you're talking about, then they definitely, everybody should speak up, whether they're an elected official, whether they're a police officer, whether they're a judge, because we're not, when we're seeking justice, it's not the police against the public. It's not the judges against defendants. It's not the prosecutor against the defense attorney. It's everybody trying to find justice or trying to make that situation as close to right as we can. So in these situations, what a lot of times that happen when you see them on the news is somebody has said there was no justice in this situation. In Mike Brown's case, there was no justice in that situation. In George Floyd, a lot of people saw justice in that situation for Mr. Floyd having to die over a alleged $20 bill, $20 counterfeit bill. So if the situation that you're talking about is leading to justice or has not led to justice, then that's where we need to start. And that comes through, you know, our systems of justice, our legal systems. So, and we can talk about this more offline. I'd like to get the information that you gave to other commissioners so I can look at it as well, so we can kind of investigate.
With copies of it. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody have a copy. I'm pretty sure that they were served, but everybody would not serve
It was
with
in
a
our,
copy.
it was in my packet.
No, I didn't.
So no one ever have a copy of this besides Ms. Fletcher?
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir, it was in our agenda packet.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
handwritten.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to address one more issue, and I'm going to step back, if that's okay with the mayor here.
Your 5 minutes is up, so.
Oh, I thought my 5 minutes was up about the police brutality. I have a second opinion on the lack of black successful business in Dougherty County. That was also on my agenda to speak on
You just need to
that.
sign back up if you don't mind and come back up for another meeting.
Well, I tell you, man, you know, this is ridiculous. I mean,
Well,
you know.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Young, any further questions?
Well, I you know, offline, Mr. Lucas, I'd like to talk to you about anything that you need to discuss, and we can bring that to the table. But thank you for your comments this morning.
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lucas. Next item on the agenda is approval of travel. Ms. Najia Bridges and Gary Lamar, the public defender and city solicitor, are attending a symposium in Savannah between August 25th and 27th, and seeking travel for both in the amount of $1,279.84.
Mr. Mayor, move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
No discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem,
No discussion.
Commissioner Fletcher,
No discussion.
Commissioner Warmington,
No discussion.
Commissioner Langstaff,
No discussion.
Commissioner Young.
No discussion.
Could we call for a roll, Ms. Talbot?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Mayor votes yes. The next item, is Mr. Stock with us this morning? No, sir. Okay, you handle it, Mr. Carter? Yes. Okay. The next item is consideration of the recommendation of the utility board to approve the Walmart Solar Initiative. Mr. Carter, can you explain to us what this is?
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. The Albany Utility Board has approved and recommended to this board the Walmart Solar Initiative. That initiative is an agreement between Walmart, the City of Albany, MEAG, and a solar energy provider. It's kind of a convoluted process, but the process really is the energy provider sells solar energy to MEAG. MEAG in turn sells that solar energy to the City of Albany and several other MEAG cities where Walmart stores are located. We in turn get to sell that energy on the market However, Walmart is interested in the credits for that solar energy. The agreement between the city and Walmart will be that we will provide those credits to Walmart for them in their energy initiatives. They will buy those credits from us, and that will cover the cost of us getting the energy from MEAG. The agreement between the city and MEAG is 20 years. The agreement between Walmart and the city is 15 years. There is a 5-year gap there that Walmart has the choice of whether or not they would like to continue that for that full 20 years. However, if you look at that Walmart solar tariff that's included in your packet, it talks about if Walmart opts out. I'm sorry, let me go back and say Walmart has the option to opt out anytime after the 11th year of that contract. However, if Walmart opts out anytime after that 11th year, even through the 15th year, the agreement reads that Walmart will make the city 100% whole for the full 20 years of that agreement. So there's not a lot of risk at that point for the city as far as having a contract with MEAG to buy energy for 20 years, but not having a way of selling that energy. So the board, the utility board has recommended 4-1 that we move this over to you guys for your approval. We're standing before you now to ask if you have any questions about that. I will state that if you do approve this today, we're going to ask a special call meeting be called because the time limit for the agreement to be signed is August the 13th, and that's prior to your final meeting for this month where you normally do your voting. So I stand before you today to ask your consideration of that agreement and answer any questions that you may have concerning it.
Mr. Howard, any questions for the city manager?
Good morning, Mr. Carter. Did you say that the agreement with MEAG is for 20 years, right?
Agreement between the city and MEAG is 20 years.
And the 50 year, I mean, not the 50 year, the 15 years are with the city?
The agreement between the city and Walmart is 15 years.
And you did say after that 11 year that Walmart can opt out.
Walmart can opt out any year after the 11th year, but if they choose to opt out, they have to make the city whole for the full 20 years. Even if they go to the 15-year term of the agreement, they still have to make the city whole for the full 20 years.
So there is no opt-out clause for the city, right?
There's no opt-out clause for the city.
It's not?
No, sir.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
So what's the upfront cost for the city?
There's not really any upfront cost. They do what's called we're buying on a monthly basis, so there's not really any upfront cost other than our monthly statement that we'll get from MEAG. We don't have any construction costs, if that's what you're asking for.
And
Any further questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
I apologize, I couldn't hear a portion of that, Mr. Carter, but are you saying there was no construction cost involved from the city?
There's no construction cost that the city is involved in. The only cost is the monthly cost. There is an escrow account. Naturally, you're paying a month ahead of time, but that's the only cost to the city other than the normal monthly fees.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, really, my question, you answered, but just to make sure that even if they opt out, it will not fall back on the taxpayer, that they will still continue to make good their agreement.
Yes, ma'am. If you read the actual verbiage in the agreement, they have to make the city 100% whole for the full 20 years.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Warburton?
Yeah, Mr. Carter, you were at the MEAG conference, so obviously solar is a huge topic in the,
Yes, sir.
in the energy industry. My question is, of all the MEAG cities, this is not an Albany alone project. Do you know how many other cities, 10, 15, 20 other cities that's going through this as well?
I think it's about 29. It's the cities that have Walmarts located within their territory. Although there's 4 kind of in the Albany area, we only supply power for 2 of those. So the agreement between us and Walmart will be for the neighborhood Walmart on Slappy and the Supercenter on Corio Road.
Okay, so we're not the only ones. The reason
No,
I bring
sir.
that to light
No,
is
sir.
this is multiple MEAG
I
cities.
think it's 29. I can count and give you the exact.
Seemed like it was
number.
half. I think there's 59 or 60 MEAG cities, so that
Yes.
sounds about right, what they told us. And then the other question would be, can any city drop out, or is it all or nothing?
Well, it's not all or nothing. Any city, we don't have to do this.
Okay.
There's no real liability in not doing it other than goodwill between us and MEAG and us and our corporate partner Walmart. But no, it's not. If we don't, that doesn't mean that the process won't continue to take place.
Yeah, I just remember there was some discussion about either majority of the cities or most of them for MEAG, because MEAG's going to buy the big block of power.
Exactly.
We're just buying a little small part for our 2 stores.
Exactly.
But there is a sense of needing a good bit of support from the cities that have the opportunity to make it worthwhile to go secure the solar power.
That's the purpose of having a decision rendered by the 13th, so that they can negotiate with Walmart or have a preview for what the participation from the MEAG cities will be, and they can finalize whatever agreements they need to finalize if necessary.
You know, I would say in general, Mr. Carter, we're going to continue to get more of these requests, and I appreciate staff working through the details with MEAG. It won't be long before Target probably comes, Publix, I mean, Marine Base is, they're really,
Absolutely.
you know, and you got Miller, P&G. I mean, this is going to be continuing to be a focus. Walmart's just kind of ahead of everybody typically on things like this, and there'll be other large companies that'll follow. So, well, I'm sure MEAG will continue to try to work these kind of programs to try to meet the needs of our customers. So
I do see this as a entry into that market. Also, that gives the city an opportunity to kind of enter into the solar market without a lot of risk. We do get to sell that actual energy on the market. If we make a little bit of money on that, that comes back to the city. So it is an opportunity for us to kind of stick our toe in the water without really diving in too deep.
Yep. All right, that's it, Mayor.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions for Mr. Carter. One of them is, I want to know what your opinion is on it and Mr. Stock's opinion. Like, do y'all have a recommendation? That's number one. Number two is, have you talked to the other cities that would be doing a similar deal to see which ones are doing it and which ones are not? You know, in hindsight, whichever way we go, we may look back and go, wow, why didn't we get on the bandwagon or do what these other cities did? Why are we the only ones out in the cold, or, you know, doing it differently, I guess?
To answer your first question, it is my opinion that we should go into this agreement. Again, it's minimal risk to the city, but you also need to understand that there's minimal gain to the city also as far as revenue is concerned. There's not a lot of revenue to be made on this because we're only buying like 1.5 megawatts of energy in that whole agreement. So there's not a whole lot of room to make a whole bunch of money on that. However, like I said previously, this gives us an opportunity to add a renewable energy in our portfolio of our energy sources. It also gives us an opportunity to be good partners with our corporate partner, Walmart. So in my mind, there's little risk, but it gives us an opportunity to actually do something good for the community as well as do something good for our partner. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to every one of the participants, but I did talk to several of them while I was at MEAG. All of them were favorable to the agreement, and for the ones that I did talk to, they're all moving forward.
And what cities were those?
I talked to Thomasville, I talked to Adel, I talked to Marietta. There was a couple of, Fort Valley. There's a couple others, but the ones that I was able to talk to, all of them were favorable to it. Matter of fact, MEAG was not MEAG, Marietta was very favorable to it. They were one of the ones I talked to pretty extensively about it, because us and MEAG are pretty much the largest ones in the process. I think Thomasville, though, is probably going to be the largest purchaser of the solar in this particular agreement, though.
All right, I appreciate it. That's all the questions I've got.
No problem, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Carter. So in this agreement, we're talking about purchasing power
Yes.
from MEAG
Yes, sir.
through this solar. Now, we already purchased, as far as I know, a block of power, which we don't necessarily use all of.
Your microphone went off, sir.
Say again?
I said your microphone went off. I wanted to make sure I heard you.
Okay. Yeah, so we purchased a block of power from MEAG,
Yes, sir.
and that block of power, we don't utilize all of it, so we do have to sell it back on the open market. I'm trying to understand why would we buy more power just to be able to sell it back on the open market? That doesn't sound like necessarily, I guess to me, a good business model to buy something that you don't need just so you can sell it again.
Well, understand also that this is a supplement to the power purchase agreement we already have with MEAG. This additional 1.5 megawatts is already spoken for as being made whole by Walmart. So there's no risk on us for buying it. But then we still get to sell that energy on the open market. So there's a benefit for buying this and selling the credits to Walmart, and then also selling the energy on the open market. So there's no downside to doing this. There's really only an upside.
Well, I mean, you're saying it's minimal gain, so the upside is not that big, but, and then I guess the other question is, what benefit would it have to our citizens, our ratepayers, for us to enter into this agreement? What direct benefit for us entering into this with Walmart would that be?
A direct benefit for your ratepayers?
Yes, sir.
Would only be that we're being good corporate partners with Walmart. When Walmart decides whether or not they're going to build another store or expand their existing stores, one of the things that I would consider if I was Walmart was whether or not the city was a good partner with me when I was asking for them to do something for me. And if that's the case, would I build that store in a territory that the Albany Utilities would serve? If that is the case and they decide to build additional storage to expand there, then it would definitely be a direct benefit to the ratepayers, because they would get the benefit of the tax dollars and the jobs that Walmart would bring.
And how many of the stores that we have in the city limits is on Georgia? Two out of the four?
2 out of the 4 are served by Albany Utilities.
Okay.
There's the Walmart on Gillionville is in the city limit. However, it's served by Georgia Power.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess like as mentioned before, I would like to see some concrete information on just how much we benefit.
Your microphone is off again, sir.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to see how much we benefited, you know, to consider that, because that's a long time. That's another 20-year agreement. And of course, we're having issues now with these long-term agreements with MEAG because of our situation here on the ground. And I want to see us enter into something else for, you know, a minimal gain, or just, you know, under this kind of murky thing of being a good corporate partner. The other thing too is when we've had other solar entities, you know, come to us, we've always kind of rebuffed them with that same notion that, okay, we already have a block of power. We don't produce power, but we purchase our power. So we're not going to buy it from you because we already purchased from MEAG. And again, that still seems counterintuitive to me, to purchase something that we already have too much of just so we can sell it back to the open market. I just, you know, and I guess, you know, that whole thing in terms of our I get it, we're members of MEAG, and we want to look at these other opportunities, but I really want to know that there's a benefit for us entering into any type of agreement that for that long of a period. You're talking about 20 years, and that just seems to tie us up for that long. It just seems like, just something that should be concerning.
So is there a question in that, sir?
Well, you can share your thoughts if you like, but, not necessarily a question, but just, that's how I look at this. Is you're supporting the deal, so.
I am supporting the deal, yes.
So I'm just saying I have concerns about that.
One of the things that's different between this and other solar energy providers bringing us energy that we have to sell is that when they brought this deal to us, they already had a buyer set in place to take up all the cost that it would cost us to buy. So if someone else just comes and wants to sell us 20 megawatts of power, then we got to figure out what to do with that 20 megawatts. When this was brought to us and the amount that we're purchasing, there was already a deal set in place that was taken care of. So the cost of that didn't land on the city, and the cost of trying to figure out what to do with it or grow our load so that we can accommodate it, that didn't land on the city at all. So there was no strain or gain on those parts of this as far as this deal is concerned. The benefit, again, to the city is that, one, we get to add solar to our portfolio, which is a growing concern with not just Walmart, but other businesses that want to have some type of renewable energy in their mix of sources. But we also, again, set ourselves to be a good corporate partner with Walmart, who is one of the biggest retailers in the nation.
Okay, when you say adding solar to our portfolio, what does that mean?
That means there are several sources for energy that we buy from MEAG. There's hydro, there's coal, there's nuclear, and now we're adding solar as one of those sources that we will, as part of our portfolio of energy sources. Albeit a small bit, but it is being added to the mix.
Okay, and I guess I kind of get the terminology, but us not being a power producer, that's not, I guess I don't see that as being a part of our portfolio. We don't produce power, we just buy it. So the only thing we're getting a benefit from is the actual electricity that we buy for our citizens. So I guess, that's, when we're talking about our portfolio, people don't know where it's coming from, whether it's solar, whether it's gas, or how the electricity gets there. They just want to know it's there. So, I'm looking to try to, if we're going to do this, is to see where our citizens understand that it's a benefit to them. We want to get in the solar power game. If that's, what we need to do, I think we need to look for those opportunities that it's a benefit to our citizens. That is a long time, 20 years, and we're talking about a minimal benefit, but I just think we need some more information on it before I can decide on it. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I personally have some issues with this, and this is not questions to Mr. Carter, but serving on the utility board, if I could give a kind of a cliff notes, and Ms. Carter can correct me if I'm wrong here, the demand from corporations throughout the country is to expand or utilize renewable energy. And what Walmart is doing here is saying, even though, we as a MEAG customer, we need to meet a certain threshold of our utilities being renewable energy. And these renewable energy credits, the way it works, the solar power is going into the grid. Walmart will pay us the value of that solar power. They're not getting the actual solar power. It's going into the grid. But they receive what's called renewable energy credits. And so that is calculated in their energy consumption. The one practical matter, there was a informational video or conference with the MEAG folks, and I expressed some concerns. I said, why are we purchasing solar power from this farm in Wilcox County? Why didn't MEAG just build the farm itself And these questions, and the response was that that is the long-range plan. Correct me if I'm wrong,
That is
Mr.
correct.
Carter, but I think that was a mistake. But be that as it may, one gentleman pointed out that Walmart throughout these member cities is one of, if not the largest generator of sales tax revenue.
Correct.
And you're just trying to accommodate basically a retailer who's contributing to the bottom line of the community. One thing I can say, though, is that we're going to see this more and more. Actually, there are big corporations who are considering putting solar farms on their own property to generate it, which will further reduce the load or the, because there's nothing that prevents corporate customers from generating their own electricity. So this thing is moving very rapidly, and we need to be aware of it. I think MEAG's been late to the game, but I just did want to respond to that. And also, the demand for solar power is probably going to be the last request you get like this. And again, I will point out that there are businesses which are at this time exploring the possibility of having generating solar power right there on the premises, which
Correct.
will reduce.
Can I add, sir, that?
Sure, yes, sir.
If we don't add some type of renewables to our portfolio, those businesses will, because that's where they're trying to go. They're going to get some type of renewable themselves. If we can provide that to them, that gives them a reason to stay with us versus them creating their own. And I think one of the reasons that MEAG decided to purchase solar instead of building their own at this point is just because of the timing of the contract. It's going to take a little bit of time to spin up, a solar farm that way that would produce 80 megawatts, and that's what they're trying to purchase from this particular solar provider. But it was quicker, and we're able to accommodate the timeline that Walmart has in place by purchasing from an existing solar provider.
Can you or somebody say a little bit more about these credits? Because if that's the benefit to the business, how does that come back around to them once they use the solar energy source coming back from MEAG, then they get some type of tax credit? Is that?
No, it's not a tax credit. These corporations are committing, that's why there's 10,000 jobs up in Atlanta about Amazon. They said, we're going 100% renewable, and they're not using renewable energy in their plant. They're using it going through RECs. Mm-hmm. And they are trying to meet their commitments to the citizens and their customers, and I guess the population of the world to decrease their carbon footprint. So that's it gets, I don't mean to sound like Johnny Know-It-All, but I think that's the kind of Cliff Notes. Just
Can I add a little bit to that?
Yes, sir.
When these corporations are buying these tax credits, they're not actually consuming, not necessarily consuming the renewable energy themselves directly. It becomes part of our mix, and I can't isolate the thing that just came from that solar farm and make sure it hits Walmart. That's not the purpose of this. Walmart has a large energy footprint, and buying the credits is a way of offsetting the energy that they use. So if they use fossil fuel energies to run whatever processes they have, if they can purchase enough credits to offset that, that brings what their carbon footprint to the world down. So that's really all that is. They're not trying to actually consume the energy. They want the credits so that they can offset what they've already consumed in fossil fuels.
Okay, so case in point, if they're able to do that, how do we get credits to our citizens? How do we get those, if we're going to add this solar mix to our portfolio, is it possible or is it even legal for our citizens, just a regular citizen, to get solar energy credits for us adding that to our portfolio just as Walmart is?
Well, there's no law that says they can't purchase it, if that's what you're asking. But That is not normally a residential concern.
Okay, I think we need to look into that.
Okay, well, you have a question that you need answered, so I know what I'm trying to answer for you?
Yeah, I want to see how we can get residential citizens, ratepayers, or look into the possibility. I don't know if that's a legal question we need to ask. I don't know if that's a policy question we need to ask up the line to our federal, people, is whether or not regular citizens in Georgia, Albany, Georgia specifically, can get energy credits for the city of Albany adding solar to its portfolio, as you say. That's what Walmart is doing, and if they're able to do that, or if that's being done at some federal level, I don't know. I just want to make sure we're offering the same benefits that Walmart is getting, or if we can, or to see what the possibilities are to get those same credits for just regular citizens.
Okay, understand now, the credit isn't, you get a credit on your bill. You still have to pay your bill, and you purchase these credits separately. So if that's what you're looking for, we can definitely get you an answer on that. But understand this is not like a credit on your bill. This is a credit for the fossil fuel energy consumptions that you normally use that just offset you as a business or you as a resident, if that's what you choose to do.
Okay, I just want to look into it.
Okay.
We can get the answers.
Any discussion, Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Nothing further. Great presentation, Mr. Carter.
Commissioner Warrington.
Yeah, I just have to add to the whole discussion, MEAG is not the big bad wolf. Walmart is not the big bad wolf. They're both great businesses. They both, one supplies our power and one uses our power.
Correct.
And this, in my opinion, if you boil this down to real simple, Walmart's one of our big customers. They're asking for something. Y'all have done a great job with MEAG to go meet that need. And if they want us to drive blue trucks on their property, if they want us to add flavoring to their water, if they want us to, list could go on and on and on. If they ask for something, we have to evaluate it and say, can we meet their needs? So those of us in business understand that, my customers want me to do something. I mean, my supply, you got to meet that need. So I appreciate y'all doing this. There may not be a tangible this minute penny saved, penny earned, but keeping Walmart in our community, keeping the tax revenue from Walmart, because they will go get solar. If we don't provide them solar, they'll go get it, and we'll lose if we don't provide it to them. So I appreciate the work y'all have done. I think that again, this is a way to keep Walmart and meet their needs for what their corporate initiative is. We have no business criticizing or supporting their corporate initiative. That's their corporate initiative, and we're here to meet their needs as one of our major customers in Albany. So that's it. Thanks, Mayor.
Commissioner Langstaff?
I'll only just comment that I'm in favor of it after hearing everything that was said. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate the discussion, but once we, think about these things, we need to think about it in terms of, what's best for our citizens, not just, business interests, or just saying we got to do everything. We always pivot toward, everything in business interests and don't necessarily reflect the interests of our community or how it's going to affect us long term. Somebody said it was good for business for us to sign this MEAG contract. Now we're looking at a situation that's going to have us, kind of hamstrung for almost 50 years now with utility rates that are going to, if we can't get our population up, that are going to mean more burden on our most vulnerable citizens. So it's not that anybody's trying to demonize business or demonize corporations, but as a city commissioner, you have to look at the whole picture. You can't just always look as what's the benefit to this corporation or this business, but look at the whole picture and see if that's what's going to be best for Albany. We've entered into a lot of agreements thinking that this was going to be some kind of golden egg to prosperity and that this business decision was going to make us a whole lot of money and repair everything. But we see that that doesn't always work. So we had to do our due diligence as commissioners to look at every facet of this and see what's going to be best for us in the long term, especially if we're talking about a 20-year agreement. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Appreciate it, Mr. Carter.
All right, thank you, guys.
The next item is for information. We have a presentation on the opioid epidemic.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Mayor,
Ms. Roll has contacted us and said she needs to be rescheduled.
She needs to be rescheduled. Okay,
Yes.
Ms. Howard, do you agree with that, or you want to?
yes, Mr. Mayor, I agree with it that she rescheduled because I think was expecting to expedite time. But as she rescheduled, Mr. Mayor, I did pass out some little booklet
Yes, sir.
and each commission and to share it with your family and friends what she's going to talk about. And I hope to get some more these little pamphlets for the public because it's some detailed information, and Ms. Phyllis would talk about night and day of things that have happened from the east side, the west side, the north side, and the south side. So I have some more pamphlets when she come back to reschedule this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Next item on the agenda is a proposal to build a youth baseball complex on the property at Chi Hall. Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem has asked that this be on the agenda. I see Mr. Shimwell.
Yes, sir. There's a fine group of gentlemen that wanted to speak to us this morning about youth sports at Chi Hall. So, Mr. Shimwell, thank you.
Thank you all very much for hearing us. Maybe not necessarily a proposal, Mayor, just more or less a idea and some diligence that's been done by a group of volunteers. Just to give you some historical context, initially a local group of volunteers got together in the fall of last year amidst everything else that was going on in the community and the country, and determined that youth participation is an issue with team sports in our area. Everybody was in agreement that to inhibit this and to get this going better, it would benefit these kids, would be more apt to play if there were maybe a hub, a central location for multiple sports. Upon some diligence, Chi Hall Park was mentioned as a possible location, and we kicked tires and actually spoke with the park authority, and they deemed it necessary to put on maybe their long-term master plan, maybe to look at that possibility. It seemed to be very well received. Recently, a group of us from each activity, and we're talking about softball, baseball, lacrosse, potentially football, soccer, located, and we mentioned possibly 8 different fields, 6 turf softball / baseball fields, and 2 multi-purpose football, soccer, lacrosse type fields. Thought about it might be in the neighborhood of 15 acres taken up out there at the park. Also spoke to some people to get a preliminary figure as to cost associated, and we're told somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.5 million to invest in the youth of our community, geared toward ages 5 through 14, but also allow for the high school age youth to be involved. There's some regional cities such as Columbus, Warner Robins, Dothan, Alabama, Hoover, Alabama, that have done projects maybe on a different scope, but have seen significant success with participation locally and regionally. But the idea of the group was to kind of get it going from inside out, to adhere to our citizens first and other kids in the region second. But that kind of gives a little bit of the background.
Good afternoon, everyone. Of course, I'm Corporal Dramoski Franklin, and I work here for the Albany Police Department. I also run a program called Limitless Boundaries, in which I've coached several sports to include football, basketball, youth baseball, track and field, soccer, just to name a few. The ages of the kids in my program are ages, which this year we actually did flag football, which we had some 3- and 4-year-olds doing the itty bitty flag. So from 3 to ages 16 is the area about which I am. I think that this would benefit the city because our kids are kind of, the kids these days are actually attracted to stuff that's shiny and new. A turf facility like this, centralized, where we can have tournaments, anybody can use it. I think it would benefit the city a lot. We also talked about a basketball facility in which basketball is huge in our city. Just basically, us as a whole believe that us bringing something like that would benefit our youth and our community and our city as a whole.
Good morning. Thanks for letting us come in and talk to you about this. I've been here 10 years in Albany now, 20 years in the US. One of the things, we run a youth soccer program. Right now we have to run it out of Deerfield. One of our big issues with what we have is the lack of facilities on the soccer side of it. And as a lot of you may know, soccer is one of the fastest growing sports. One of the conversations that we've had with myself, with Foy and Dramoski, is being able to have a facility that is all inclusive with football, with soccer, with baseball, with softball is going to make this a lot easier as well, also for our residents who have multiple children, who have multiple interests, who are able to be in one place at the same time. Instead of having to worry about having a daughter at one facility, having a son at one facility, and really trying to keep our families and our residents happy and together, that they can all support each other. Am I saying the schedule is going to work out perfectly? No, we all know they're not. But the growth, certainly of soccer right now, is very difficult because of the lack of facilities that we have, only being able really to use school fields, whether it be at Deerfield, whether it be at Sherwood, or whether it be the YMCA park, which is difficult sometimes to get onto. So from a community standpoint, and families, like I said, who have different, whose children have different ideas and different interests in their sports, this is just one thing I think that we should be able to give our residents, give our families this opportunity. We have a huge sports complex out in Tifton that we utilize sometimes that has baseball, softball, and soccer. We have a lot of Albany families who drive to Tifton to play on these soccer fields. And I get a lot of the time, why do we have to drive 45 minutes to play soccer fields? It's a question I can't answer. If we were able to have a complex and keep our residents, keep them local, then I think it's going to be a very popular decision for our families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just kind of just to let you know a little bit, my portion of this, I've been on the leadership committee with the Albany League Baseball, and thanks to the city, namely Don Gray, Cary Grant, and Craig Potter, the partnership has been phenomenal over the years, especially this year. And with all the hoops we were jumping through, it was a daily occurrence to have conversations with that part of y'all, of the staff, and they were just phenomenal. In 2019, Albany League Baseball had 320 children associated with the league. That's ages 4 through 12. 2020 saw those numbers dwindle to 240, most in part of the pandemic that we were dealing with. Hence, the conversation about a facility such as this went on last fall, and everybody kind of turned their attention toward providing an opportunity for the children to participate, and we were trying to do that minute, but since that, we have essentially got back going on the project. But, you know, in unison, this group feels that there would be great benefit here. Essentially, we're coming to you guys to ask for your blessings to move forward to analyze this facility further, whether that be our group to provide further definitive information. There's data out there. We go get data. You go get data. It's probably going to be different. We were looking for some ideas. If we need to go get some definitive data, we can go attain that. We've contacted a company out of Clearwater, Florida that has in the past done some investigative work and done some analysis on potential projects that were on a different scope than this, but we've had conversation with Daniel Morton at Sports Facilities Companies out of Clearwater, and you know, they're on board, and what they do is they manage a lot of complexes similar to this around the country, so they would have the wherewithal to contact organizations that are holding tournaments, maybe having kids come in and having our kids participate in these tournaments would benefit, and essentially have other people from other parts of the country pay for a portion of a first-class facility such as this for our kids to participate in. But essentially, that's what we have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shimwell. Any questions for any of the presenters? Commissioner Howard.
Good morning, Mr. Shimwell. How you do?
Fine, thank you.
You mentioned that it will cost right at $4.5 million to
I mean,
on 15 acres.
It's a budgetary type number, very, you know, not definitively that. Somewhere in that ballpark is the information we got for 8 fields and everything encompassed. We would have a concession stand, of course, bathroom facilities and that type building. But the turf aspect of things, Mr. Howard, is what we really think is going to make this project totally separate from others, whether that's within a 100-mile radius of us or, you know, 4 or 5 states. I mean, the combination of Chee Hall having RV hookups, having a bona fide, a great zoo, having the educational experiences that are there across the street. You've got an 18-hole golf course. We feel like people could come into our area and utilize our facilities to stay the whole time and thus help fund this project like this.
And Mr. Shimwell, did you talk with the city manager and recreation department head?
Yes, sir. We have had a conversation. A couple of Fridays ago, we had a meeting and kind of got some ideas there.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, let me ask Mr. Carter a question. Mr. Carter.
Yes, sir.
The Paul Ames Stadium in East Albany that was built over 20-some years ago, is it being utilized by the local high schools in Albany State or what?
Very sparingly, but we're also looking at ways to revitalize that. One of the things that I've talked to this group and other groups about as we do this is that master plan that we got going on. Got to make sure that all of our recreation assets are evaluated, and this plan is identified as one of the things that the city has on its mind, so that when that master plan is complete, we're having a good layout, not just for this if it moves forward, but for Paul Eames and any other of our recreation facilities.
And let me ask you another question. Before the city manager left the city, if I'm correct, I believe a real estate broker, did he donate about 200-some acres of land to the city down there by Paul Ames Stadium?
I'm not aware of that. I can find out for you.
Okay. Because, Mr. Mayor, I think that in the past, and I think it was the real estate broker, Mr. Cecil Musgrove did donate some property that he had adjacent that would butt heads with the Flint River. And I think that just like other cities, that if you put it, not saying reflecting of the Chial Park, but you sort of need a central location because of the geographic location of inner youth kids trying to get to Chial Park. That probably be some type of difficult to do. But if Mr. Carter can look at that 200-some acres, I think that Mr. Cecil Musgrove donated to the city. That and plus, since we own a lot of that baseball out there, and it's underutilized Paul Lane Stadium. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming to speak to us today, and thank all three of you. I know all of the programs that the three of you are involved with and that you run, and you do a great job, and thank you for the time you spend with our youth and the time that you give of yourselves to work with our youth. How many, with the programs that you all run now, how many total before you would even look at additional youth coming into this new facility? How many do you think with your programs that would be using the facility right away? I apologize. I can't hear anybody.
Commissioner Fuller, this is Dramoski Franklin. I currently have 150 youth in my program right now, and they all would be utilizing it.
Albany League Baseball has 300 youth.
The soccer program currently has between 170 200 families, but that's 85% all female players.
Okay, thank you. And it was breaking up a little bit, but it sounds like just with quick math that you've got total with y'all's three, a little over 700 youth that would be involved. So thank you. I'm certainly interested in hearing more about this and seeing about this moving to the next step. Thank you.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Well, this is very interesting. You know, we talk about recreation every meeting almost, and behind closed doors. And I was born here, but most of my schooling was done in Valdosta. And I remember the biggest difference growing up was we had 2 high schools, 2 elementaries. And then when we back in the 70s when we played Albany, we just Westover, Doherty. I mean, it just went on, and it's like we've got so much recreation out here, but nothing that is just done great. We've got good, but we don't have great. And I think something like this is spot on, especially if wherever the location is at. You know, YMCA has offered us 50 acres at a remarkable price. The mayor has often, and others have often talked about Cheehall Park, which is almost a hidden jewel that we seem to just throw pennies at. And, you know, we could take this a step further, and if we could find a central place in this community that could reach out to our kids from 3 to 16, because to be honest with you, that's the groups, especially the younger they are, it's almost like going to church. Plant that seed at 5 years old and maybe you have hope. And to take it a little further is for the ones that's going to say, oh, it's too far out, I can't go. Why can't we create a bus line? You know, David Hamilton, I couldn't see him not coming up and putting something together that we couldn't pick these kids up. We couldn't pick these families up. And how great it would be. Dothan is remarkable with what they've done with their complex. And they actually are having their local kids meeting other kids because they're bringing them in from other communities. And that sometimes gives our kids and our families, sometimes we get a feeling of just being stuck, or is this all that it is? And then when we step out of our comfort zone or out of our community and we see what others are doing, then we get that aha moment. So I sort of have got that aha moment with all of you, and I hope that these talks do continue, and I hope that we as a group and as a community can look at just doing one fan. I'm not saying, please don't get out here and say, Commissioner said we're not going to do this, this, or this, because we're looking at Driscoll, we're looking at other places, we're looking at Turner, we still have all of that. But why can't we just put our money and energies into one great place that other communities would recognize, and that's how we get our start on becoming the hub of Southwest Georgia, my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Commissioner Warrington.
Yeah, appreciate you guys coming. I know this wasn't just something y'all came up with last night. Obviously, even the way you discussed it, even the fall of last year, y'all been talking about this and knocking it around, and y'all are in the trenches every day coaching and mentoring and doing exactly what we need. About 50 more of y'all out interacting with the kids of this community. I guess, Corporal Franklin, let me pick on you and maybe ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming. So, you know, if you look across the city, you know, we have the equivalent of a sports complex. It's just that it's scattered all throughout the community. So in your experience working with kids, what's the value of having a mega facility, if you will, versus the equivalent of a mega facility that's kind of spread out through the whole community? Is there pros and cons to that?
I think it's more pros than cons, and the reason I say that because, I mean, all of our families will have, like my children, they play different sports. If all of them are at one centralized location, it's a perfect fit. I've been to countless amount of tournaments to where you go to these places and they have about 5 or 6 football fields out there, or about 8 or 9 to even 10 baseball fields out there, and everybody's just playing baseball. There are tons of kids, but these kids come from everywhere. They're coming, some of them are from as far as North Carolina, coming down and playing tournaments at these different cities, and I feel like our city's missing out. You know, I feel like we got a lot of talent here where it would bring a lot of people here to see what we have to offer, what our city has to offer. We speak about centralized, and to me, I think Cheaha is kind of centralized. It's right here in the middle, almost in the middle of our city. Now, as far as a basketball facility, I don't see any other place than the Civic Center. If we had a facility like they have, say, in Warner Robins just built one, I've seen basketball tournaments where there are thousands of kids playing from Thursday all the way up to Sunday. Restaurants are packed, the city is packed, there's all kind of revenue coming in. You got all these different college coaches coming in, seeing these kids play, just to see these kids play in these facilities. And again, our city is missing out. I think if you had a basketball facility here, this is the Civic Center, is central. Then you had your baseball and multi-purpose facility out at Cheaha with a bus line running, which we have, my program, we actually was donated a bus, so I know how important it is to have transportation to and from these places, because we go pick our kids up. If they can't get a ride, we go pick them up and bring them to us. I think something like this is what our city needs, and it will hit all sports, not just baseball, not just soccer, not just football, everything. You know, a multi-purpose field would be great, and several multi-purpose fields would be awesome. So, it's just my opinion.
And you made a statement about shiny and new, and not that you got to always build something new, but right now, if you think you're a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old right now, you know, what do they have to look forward to? Like, what are the facilities that the average 10, 11, 12-year-old, they're using the facilities kind of to scatter around the city?
I know with the majority of our kids in our program, they're like it's football season now, they love to play on turf. There are no turf multi-purpose facilities anywhere near here. So if you build a turf facility at Cheaha, Cheaha's gonna thrive because, you know, you have those families with those little kids that really don't want to sit there and watch the games all day, right? So what do? Let's go over here to the zoo. So now you got those people who rarely would come to the zoo. They're actually over there now, and you're getting more people there. Then you got a golf course across the street. It's several things that they can do here that people just don't know about our city because they don't come. What reason do they have to come? When they can go to a tournament in Tifton, they have a facility where it's all grass, But you're talking about turf. That's gonna bring a lot of people. I mean, our kids these days, they're attracted to stuff that's shiny and new.
Yeah, one of the most compelling stories, the Doherty County football coach, one of the times we were talking a couple weeks ago, he even talked about how at Doherty High, by them getting turf and by them having a new field house, the drastic change in just his numbers. I think he was running 30 or 40 kids. And I think this fall, I think he's running 70. He's got 70 kids.
Now.
Yeah, playing football. And just by them upgrading their facilities at their school, and what a
Yes, sir.
drastic change that was. So I guess for me, and Mr. Carter, I don't know where we kind of go from here, but obviously we're in the middle of a recreation master plan, and that's going to cover everything from the walking park, the picnic tables, to these community, to the gyms on the south side that we know need help. You know, and I hopefully a part of this recreation master plan is going to cover the need for and I call it a mega facility. I think y'all said a hub. I think we're all saying the same thing, that we need some major facility that has an identity that brings all sports together in one location. So I appreciate y'all coming. And so you're coming with an idea that it be at Chee-Haw. I mean, I think the idea I've heard from 10, 20, 30 people that we need a mega facility, and maybe through this recreation master plan, hopefully they'll communicate the need for that, as well as, you know, some site location. You know, Pauline's could be a site. You mentioned the Civic Center could be a site. I appreciate y'all coming and just mentioning the warrants and the merits of putting it at Chee-Haw. I think that's definitely a great. So I appreciate y'all coming. Certainly in agreement with you. You know, from Warner Robins to Dothan, everybody around us has a mega hub facility, and I think it's imperative for us to move forward towards something like that too. So,
Yes, sir.
thank y'all for coming.
Commissioner Langstaff.
I just want to say I'm excited about this opportunity, and I would like staff to look at it further, do some of the data gathering to see if it makes sense or how it could make sense. To me, the most important, well, maybe it's not the most important thing, but it's one of the important things, is the fact that Chee-Haw, we have a contract with Chee-Haw where we have agreed to subsidize them. I think the number now is close to $900,000 a year. And so we're putting a lot of money out there for the public. And, you know, it's unlike any other facility in the city. We don't invest that much money annually in anything else I can think of that's recreation related. And I just think, you know, as long as we're putting that money out there, why not have a symbiotic relationship with athletics? I like Commissioner Fletcher's idea about, you know, having a bus line or something, you know, an augmented bus line. I mean, it doesn't have to be the traditional method. It could be a smaller bus, but that would help get kids out there when we need to, work out a deal with the school system where they could take kids out there when necessary from school. Anyway, I think we're already committed to Chee-Haw, and I think this is just an opportunity to expand that relationship. And I do think Albany has missed the boat by not having a centralized mega facility like Chad said. I think that we have missed opportunities for tournaments and just more community involvement because we've got them spread out all over the city. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you. Ms. Young.
All right, thank y'all for coming, gentlemen. I appreciate your presentation, and I as well have talked with Jamoski and a lot of other people out in the community who are looking for that mega facility, as this is being called. One of the things that when we talk about this recreational master plan that we're looking at is, you know, how many students does this affect? How many kids, how many children? Because that's where the buy-in is to me, or is for me. We can build a Taj Mahal if we want to, but how many of the students and these young people are we going to be able to actually get into these programs for the purposes of mentoring and making them better, not only as sports, but as young, upstanding people. And definitely, I think you gentlemen represent that effort in trying to minister and mentor young people. So I'm looking at this in kind of two ways. We're talking about facilities, but we're also talking about programming. So when you gentlemen run your particular programs, Jamoski, you mainly, I guess, run football, and I see baseball and soccer represented here. Where can you guys, because my kids are all about it, except for one in college now, and they play softball. I got one still coming up, and she's playing basketball, and I've done the travel ball circuit, went from town to town, was just down in Jacksonville to my daughter's basketball tournament in a private facility that was in I think it was almost like in a little strip mall, but it was a gym within a particular strip mall. So in terms of working your programs, would you all foresee yourselves working your programs as a partner with the city, under the city, or utilizing these facilities as, I guess the only thing I can say is a separate entrepreneurial
we want to partner with the city.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's our city. We can't sit here and say that we're gonna do it as our own private entity and it only affects this group of kids. We want to try to affect everybody. So we're partnering with Rec and Parks or the city as a whole. I think it would even be better. We talk about the family aspect. I didn't even think about the turf fields as far as adults using them, but Corporal Maurice Williams outside doing security, he actually partners with City Rec doing kickball for adults. So now you're really touching all the families, because if we have a football tournament, and I know a lot of my parents play kickball, so you have a kickball tournament that same weekend, everybody's at Chi Hall together. So, we can't function now. We can't get up here and say that we're not gonna partner with the city when we're asking the city, we're actually asking the city to look at our idea. So yes, that's our plan.
Okay. And the other part of it too is Chi Hall the only site that you all have identified for this? I know when other people have mentioned it to me in the community, they've talked about other locations. As Commissioner Howard mentioned, we have Pauline's in that area out there. Some folks has even mentioned the large field that's over near Riverside Cemetery that has been vacant for some times. And I myself have always thought that, especially for South Albany was ripe for soccer fields, because we have a lot of just vacant lots and vacant spaces where you could quickly put up some soccer nets and get a league started. And although we've never, I don't think, ever had soccer as a part of Albany Parks and Rec. So what other options are you all looking at in terms of the location?
Is needed. So I don't think a location would be an issue, because it's something that we need here, period. It's just my opinion. I'm sure they feel the same way.
Gotcha. For I guess everybody listening, is that when we talk about these things, we talk about the recreational master plan. We're moving forward with that. This is a part of that process, and I think we just need more community discussion around these things. I know there are a lot of interested people with programs, with different ideas. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. So please just make sure that we're all paying attention when these meetings are happening. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation.
Okay. First I want to tell you, Coach Jocelyn, Coach Corporal Franklin, Mr. Chimwell, appreciate you working with the youth, but $4.5 million is a lot of money. And I think what we need here, it would be unfair for the city to require a volunteer group to incur the expense, because when you start talking about design and proposal, I know that's going to be rather costly. This is something that we need to incorporate into our master plan. And what I would suggest is that your group will schedule an appointment for you to meet with Wood and tell these folks what you're looking at. Now, let me say something that isn't going to go over too well. First, the authority owns the property at Chee Hall. The city commission doesn't own the property. So I was at the Chee Hall meeting, and I think basically the position of the Chee Hall authority was, well, until the city's going to commit to spend the money out here, there's really nothing for us to consider. The other concern that the Chee Hall authority had is that the city commission, if they were going to ask for a SPLOST money, and the city commission allocated $4 million, I think it was 3.5 at that time, $3.5 million for a baseball park, and said, well, we're giving you $3.5 million. Well, that really wasn't their ask. I mean, the authority has some other priorities. Secondly, we have to, as I said, we just need to incorporate this into our master plan. I have some concerns. Corporal Flankin, is your program a cut program that people have to try out? No. Okay, so you take anybody? Yes. Okay. One concern we have as a city, we need to revive our football program. You know, I've received calls from folks that say they want money from the city. They have to operate a travel team, so our kids can't play here. Well, Mr. Jones, who plays for you? Well, I mean, they have tryouts. So, I mean, it's Coach Jones and his organization that sort of contributed to the ruination of our city youth. And you start talking about tournaments and these things, Coach Josh, I don't know if you take anybody or they have to try out. But to me, that makes a big difference. If we're going to talk about spending public money, we don't need to allocate that money to people who are, A, not letting everybody participate, but B, people who are actually receiving some compensation for what they're doing. I think there are alternate sites. I personally don't think this would be compatible with Chee Hall. You got 800 acres out there. I just could foresee in the future you would say that can you waive the admission fee because people are having to pay to come to the tournament, and this is going to cause problems. But I mean, months ago it's been mentioned, the YMCA Sports Park is, I mean, you've got the acreage out there, and you've already got some of the facilities that you're talking about. And that is what we're going to see. Our last retreat, I had a long presentation, and all the commissioners got bored with it. But the truth of the matter is, here in Albany, we have too many baseball parks. We have too many football fields. And people get upset because the city's not maintaining those baseball parks and those football fields. Well, we're reducing our recreation department staff. You're talking about here putting a big demand, and I mean, I know the advocates of turf would say, well, you don't have the maintenance cost. Well, the other thing is, I think you could probably do this for 60% of what your projection is if you didn't have this turf. Be that as it may, that ain't a decision for me to make here today. We need to make sure that your group meets with Wood and to tell them we need to explore other sites because I mean I don't think this thing with the authority, we might be getting the cart before the horse, because like I say, I was at the meeting at the authority, the presentation. I think ASU's baseball coach was there. Is that right? Yes. And I think that's where the $3.5 million came in, and the position was, as I understood it, well, you need to find out if you can get the money to build this thing out here. And like I say, the unspoken concern was obviously from the authority that they wouldn't want the city commission to say, we're allocating $3.5 million for something that another group had asked for. One concern I have about this big complex is that a lot of at-risk youth are not going to have the transportation to get there. It's easy enough for us to say, well, we'll run a bus line there. Well, we got people that live East Albany, South Albany. It's just not, I think, realistic to say we don't have to have facilities in certain sections of town if we build this one facility. Now, I want to say, Corporal Franklin, we are building a regulation football field at Driscoll Park. It's going to be nice. And when I coached football a couple of years in the late 80s and early 90s, we used to go down there and coach. I mean, it was fun just to go down there and experience. So we're hoping to revive what we have, and that's not inconsistent with the proposal. And like I say, I don't mean to be Joe negative, but in this master plan, we've got International Park in East Albany. I don't think they played a game over there in 4 years. We've got Gillespie Park, 8th Avenue. You know, that we are going to have to mothball or close these facilities. We can't, I mean, you know, in 8th Avenue, I think the problem there is a low-lying area. That's probably why it was donated to the city. But instead of investing money in some of these facilities, what limited resources we have would be allocated to this big complex that everyone's proposing. And I hope your group understands that, as I said, in previous master plans, the city's been advised you've got too many parks. And we could ride by, Mr. Warburton and I would, Tallulah, Massey, Shackelford Park, 5th Avenue, all these places, Blaylock, where people used to practice baseball, you know, and so this is an issue, but we will certainly, Mr. Carter, make arrangements for the group to meet with Wood. Can we do that? And so then we can see, but like I say, I wish y'all would go out there and look at the YMCA Sports Park. They had proposed to run some city programs, and I think if we had to go through that, if you're talking about this kind of money, we would certainly look to the county to help us. Probably need to be a SPLOST project. You know, we need to put some pressure on the county because it's easy for them to say, well, y'all handle recreation, you know, but this is for what you're proposing is for the community. And I'm, like I say, I grew up in Cordell. I was fixing up my grandmother's house for about a year, and from April to the 1st of August, they've got a girls softball complex every other weekend. I mean, I was stunned at the people who were there. But thank y'all, and we'll proceed with this. And like I say, we're gonna make arrangements for y'all to meet with the folks that are working on the master plan. And let's look at some other sites and maybe consider not quite the everything with all the bells and whistles, but if we get the complex, we'll certainly have that opportunity to offer tournaments and a quality opportunity for the kids in youth sports. I guess we need to go around the table again. Commissioner Howard?
Mr. Mayor, no add any other idea to it, but would you indulge the Director of Recreation just to come and say what the city's going to do? Like you mentioned the YMCA and what Colonel Dan Gibbs is going to do with the Recreation Department. Could Mr. Potter come and just tell you what they have partnership with Recreation, what they're going to do in East Albany, which the Colonel realized that YMCA out there on Gilby Road is not conducive, so he is bringing a program into the city, into East Albany. And would you allow Mr. Potter to come and just tell you about it?
Okay, Mr. Potter. Excuse us, gentlemen.
Thank you, Commissioner Howard and Commission. What Commissioner Howard's talking about is we're partnering with the YMCA called Y Without Walls. We're basically picked out Grove Park, which the kids in that area, they can't actually walk to a rec center that we have. So starting on August the 16th, every Monday and Wednesday from 4 to 6, some of my staff and some of the YMCA staff will be going out to that park and actually running programs, having speakers. We'll do a little bit of help with homework, play activities and all that from 4 to 6 every Monday and Wednesday from starting on August the 16th. We're basically taking our rec center out to them in the park is basically what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, any further discussion?
Yes, sir, and I apologize if you've already covered this, the audio is going in and out during part of the presentation, but could one of you speak to the advantages of the turf, if you don't mind, please?
I think the big obvious positive to the turf is that it's going to be able to survive weather. So I always get asked a lot of the times is, how are your fields looking? Well, I'll get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and check them, you know, whatever it may be. But if the answer can be, well, we've got turf fields, we're okay. And we don't have to cancel programs. We can keep consistent programs. We can keep people out there. They don't have to worry. I think also in regards to if a field is wet and you're taking risks, sliding through puddles, especially in soccer, baseballs, you know, running through wet ground, I think from an injury standpoint as well, it gives us a chance to have year-round programming. We don't have to worry about if there's going to be thunderstorms, how the facilities are going to be, if they're going to be mowed, if they're going to be lined, if they're going to be ready when we get out there. We know that the turf field's going to be there, it's going to be prepared, it's going to be ready, the lines are already put down. Just some of the positives certainly that I've had financially, from what I understand of doing my research and talking to some other coaches, is that the costs, I think as you mentioned before, you take away some of the costs in regards to having to worry about servicing mowers, having to worry about paint machines, having to worry about buying paint, all these different kinds of things add up over that period of time.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Respect.
Well, two things. One, Mayor, and when you said the county needs to do their part, if, Mr. Carter, if we're looking at various locations, which I think we need to do, you know, they're putting a lot into Radium Springs, so that might, I mean, just, if we're going to look, let's look at the whole pie. But I will tell you, and I believe Commissioner Howard and Commissioner Langstaff will remember this, some years back, we were looking at a project and we did the pros and cons on turf, and actually turf come out as a loser. I will dig back deep to see if I still have that, and things could have changed in the last 6 years, but I remember trying to weigh out this and trying to weigh out that, but there was a lot of cons to that turf in South Georgia. So we'll get it all straight. Thank you.
I did dig up that. There was a study done in 2017, and it was in regards to Paul Eames and the impact that would be if that was, I think they were going to turf the infield, leave the outfield grass, and it was deemed not to be physically responsible for the return on investment. That was geared more for a project that was for 15 to 18-year-old youth. This would be a little bit more younger, foundation type things, but so much of it depends on the scope, how many fields and what activities and that type of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Commissioner Warburton.
Yeah, so let me kind of stretch everybody's mind at the moment. I think the number Mr. Shrimwell gave, even though I appreciate a low number, I think was really low. I think if you're going to build a mega facility, you're in the 10 to 15 million range. So one of the examples, just to share with you, is Warner Robins. I don't know if y'all played Warner Robins. Probably is the most recent facility built in our region. I think it was in the 20 million range. It included basketball, football, everything y'all just talked about. And the way they accomplished it is they actually brought in multiple counties. It really is a regional facility. I believe each county kind of contributed. The city of Warner Robins contributed. So if you really want to just kind of blow our mind here, from a city and a region standpoint, is if we want to do something of that magnitude, you know, we need to start talking to the county, possibly even Lee County, Worth County. And really, if you want to set a vision here of a regional facility, it's not something that the city of Albany is going to be able to do. Now, if we want to do a city of Albany, we'll go build 4 fields and a couple, you know, and that's the magnitude of what we're able to do. But if you want to build a facility that's going to be first class, large, basketball, volleyball, soccer, everything, then as leaders, we're going to have to really get ahead of this. And I guess my one question to Mr. Carter, I think something like this would be a great next SPLOST project. And I think, I don't know, is it next year, Mr. Carter, that we'll be voting on SPLOST 8? Or?
I think that referendum is next year, but I checked to make sure for you.
Okay. If it's not next year, it certainly will be the year after. But, you know, I think it's not too early to start talking about something of this magnitude that, you know, we can get the county to put some money in the city, and all of a sudden you've got a major project that's on the referendum, the SPLOST referendum, possibly even get Lee County or another surrounding counties to add some to their, you know, it's just a matter of how big we want to do this, how far we want to go. Y'all bring a site location. Obviously, it could be at Paul Eames. I think Commissioner Fletcher mentioned Radium Springs. It could be Radium Springs. There's 100 acres south of Darton campus, Albany State. There's some land. You got Gilliamville, the YMCA sports comp. You know, so there's the site locations are all over. I think what we got to decide is, do we want to do something big? Do we want to do a recreation mega facility? And then through this recreation master plan, hopefully they'll, you know, back that up, that there's a need for that. And then we got to go do a site selection. And then before you know it, SPLOST 8 will be here. And that'd be a great time to get something of this magnitude on the SPLOST referendum. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Commissioner Langstaff.
Nothing further.
Ms. Young.
Yes, sir. I kind of echo the sentiments that we've heard, because that's when I first heard about this. I kind of thought about that in the context of an economic development opportunity. Again, I was a travel ball parent, drove all over, and I spent loads of money coming to hotels, spending money on food. And when you have those, you know, thousands of kids coming to an area with their families, it is definitely an economic opportunity for that particular community when they come in. So I think we do need to reach out and look for that as an economic opportunity. So we need to bring in, you know, folks like EDC, folks like Community Economic Development, you know, other governmental entities that can look at this, you know, particular project or proposal in that way and see how we want to do that, and pull in information from those locations that you guys have access to or have been connected to, and just see, you know, how they did it in Warner Robins, how they did it in Dothan, or wherever those locations are. Again, under the recreational master plan, I would like to see you all present to that, but I think this plan, like I said, I think it has been kind of alluded to, probably a little bit bigger in, you know, scope than what that master plan is ultimately going to wind up being, because we really need our recreation department to focus in on getting their rec programs, or their rec programs, hopefully at the end of the day, will be feeding your programs, and will be feeding that travel ball, you know, element that's out there in the community that's going to want to bring those other, you know, kids in, because we know, or at least in my knowledge of those sports, we have rec and then we have competition. You know, rec is for everybody. Competition ball ain't for everybody. Some people going to get cut. Some people not going to be able to go to that next level. But those are the parents that do travel. Those are the parents that do invest a lot of money in their kids participating to get them to that next level. And we do need the facilities to attract those families to come in and help our kids compete and bring that economic boom to our town. So hopefully we can focus in on that. So I would say to you gentlemen, probably take your presentation all around, see if you could present for the county, present at EDC, present at those places where you can say, hey, this is an opportunity for our community, and we want you to partner with us in this. Thank you again for your presentation.
Corporal Franklin, Coach Jocelyn, Ms. Shimwell, I just want to again appreciate y'all for working with the youth in the community, but also bringing forth this presentation. And what I can tell you we're going to do, we're going to make arrangements for y'all to meet with Wood, the representatives who are working on the master plan, and further, if it's incorporated into the master plan, then we'll take the initiative to find out what the actual cost would be. Because if this is going to be funded, it's a very big project. I mean, it's going to have to be a SPLOST project, and like I say, I think at the minimum, what the county would need to contribute, because we're going to have only X amount of dollars for recreation, and we have to do a lot of renovation and repair to our existing facilities. And I also say that, you know, there's a contemplation of closing a large number of the properties that we have. Thank y'all for coming, and y'all have a good day. Next item on the agenda, Chief Scott notifies Albany has been recognized as storm ready.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Commission. If I could take my mask off, you would see a big smile on my face.
Okay.
I'll just give you a little bit of it here.
Okay.
I'll put my mask back on. It's an exciting day to be in front of you today. I brought, of course, the team with me. Anytime I stand before you, I am always standing on the shoulders of people who do a lot of hard work every day, and this is an example of not only our firefighters and our 911 dispatchers and what they do, the administrative team, emergency management. It's just a combined effort, and it's an honor to stand before you to bring forward just another tremendous accomplishment of the department. And that today is to present to you and to announce that we have been designated as storm ready here in Dougherty County. The storm ready designation from the National Weather Service demonstrates Dougherty County's strong commitment to implement the infrastructure and systems needed to save lives and protect property when hazardous weather and flooding strikes. 98% of all presidentially declared disasters are weather related, leading to around 500 deaths per year and $15 billion in damage. The Storm Ready program helps arm Dougherty County with the communication and safety skills needed to save lives and property before, during, and after the event. The National Weather Service recognizes Dougherty County as storm ready because we are better prepared for weather emergencies. We are better prepared through the infrastructure, processes, and redundancies we have put in place to monitor and respond to weather emergencies. Although many communities are prepared to handle weather emergencies, Dougherty County has volunteered to meet the heightened and improved standards outlined by the National Weather Service. Some of those are to establish a 24-hour warning point and emergency operations center, have more than one way to receive severe weather warnings and forecasts and to alert the public, create a system that monitors weather conditions locally, promote the importance of public readiness through community seminars, and develop a formal hazardous weather plan, which includes training severe weather spotters and holding emergency exercises. As of June 24th, 2021, there were 3,041 storm-ready sites in the 50 states, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Pacific Islands. Our recognition lasts for 3 years and will be due to be redesignated again in December 8th of 2023. We have received a storm ready sign from the National Weather Service, which Chief Jordan has behind me. and it will be displayed outside of the Albany Fire Department headquarters. However, there will be other designated spots around the city and county designating and demonstrating and showing to the public that we are storm ready. In addition, we have a storm ready page on the AFD website, and we also have a link on the City of Albany's main page so that citizens can click on the storm ready link and find out more information about the storm ready designation. I want to thank also our interim city manager for making that recommendation to us, and we were able to work with PIO, have that link on there now so our citizens can just simply click and find out more information on Storm Ready. I'm joined today by our Deputy Chief and Deputy Emergency Management Director Stephen Burns, our Emergency Management Specialist Lauren McGrath, and Assistant Chief Ruben Jordan. Joining us today, displaying the Storm Ready sign. We are Storm Ready, be prepared. And so I say to you this morning, we are very proud to be designated as Storm Ready here in Albany and Dougherty County.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Chief Scott Howard.
Thank Chief for that presentation. And this is my first time. I receive a lot of texts from Ms. Lauren, but I can put a face with you now, Brother Dan. You're saying that we're having inclement weather or whatever. But Chief, let me ask you a question. After this, which you was not here, and I think our former city manager, that those sirens that we put up, and I think she said that it was what, no longer in operation or what, or do they work?
Oh yes. You mean the outdoor weather sirens?
Right.
We still do. You may remember some months ago, it's been a number of months ago now, I came before the commission to kind of talk about how we utilize sirens. We were sounding them off a bit more than we did in the past, and we redefined that so that now our message to citizens now is when you hear those outdoor weather sirens, it is important for you to take cover. We no longer sound those sirens now just to give warnings of things that may happen. When you hear that siren, that means that we have identified a serious reason for our public to take cover immediately. So we kind of redefined the way we emit the siren, setting it off, and it's really worked out well for us. So we're continuing to push that message about outdoor warning sirens. But I'm glad you mentioned that because it just gives an opportunity for me to say to the citizens who are listening in and watching today, when you hear the outdoor weather sirens now in Albany, you need to take cover immediately.
Okay. And can you give us a list in the future of all them located, and the maintenance, the upkeep is still there, right?
It is. We have one, as I'm saying, you're thinking, we have one that is currently not operating, and we're working to get that one resolved. But we check them regularly, make sure they're working properly, and we are aware that there is one that is not currently working now. We'll be working to get that addressed.
Okay, and where is that one located at?
It is Radium Springs.
Radium Springs and College Drive, right over by the Albany State, right there at the stadium where the apartments at, right there in that corner, right there, that is the one that's down. It's actually on High.
Okay, East High, right. Okay.
I'm glad I thought of that. I didn't want to misrepresent that. I just thought that just remember we do have one that is not in service. Thank you for it.
That's it. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions. Thank you for your presentation and congratulations on the recognition. Good job.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No, they just let us know when that does get fixed, because that's a crucial area and a lot of older homes over there. So thank you for staying up on it. Thank y'all for your hard work. This isn't something that's just given out. You earned it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Warburton?
Yeah, likewise. Thank y'all so much and appreciate you doing all the hard work.
Thank you.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
No questions. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Congratulations, Chief. I want to say, Chief Jordan, you feel a little awkward holding up the sign. If it makes you feel any better, I've got to carry a flag on Sunday. So. Chief, you need to stay with us. You got the next item, a request to adopt the hazard mitigation plan for 2020 to 2025.
Yes, it is. This is a long time in the works. A lot of work has been put into it, but the hazard mitigation plan is to be updated every 5 years. Consequently, the updated plan is required to be adopted by the governments of the City of Albany and Dougherty County, Georgia. Therefore, the Dougherty County 2020-2025 Hazard Mitigation Plan is being presented for review and consideration. The Federal Emergency Management Agency requires that every county and municipality have a pre-disaster mitigation plan in place and requires the adoption of such plans in order to receive funding from the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. The Hazard Mitigation Plan is a community's plan for evaluating hazards, identifying resources and capabilities, selecting appropriate actions, and developing and implementing the preferred mitigation actions to eliminate or reduce future damage in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents in the community. The plan that is before you, there were some 50 participants that participated in the update of our 2015 hazard mitigation plan. So just to say that we had a considerable amount of input. This is not, again, this is not the fire department's plan or just the emergency management plan. It is the community's plan. And therefore, we involved, we had a consultant, Lux Consulting, that actually assisted the city and county in putting this document together. As I mentioned, some 50 participants that range from Dougherty County Emergency Medical Services to the Department of Public Health, Public Works, Engineering Department, Albany Police Department, Code Enforcement, Technology and Communications Department of the City of Albany, the Dougherty County Board of Commissioners, of course, the School System Police Department. The list just goes on. Transportation, of course, participated. Mr. David Hamilton's team at Tanisha Gresham participating. So just a number of, like I said, 50 participants in this, in putting this plan together. Some of our community partners, the Sewega Council on Aging was active in this process. Also, we reached out to neighboring counties as well, in Baker and Calhoun and Lee and Mitchell, Terrell and Worth County. They were peer reviewers of our 2020 mitigation plan. The plan was also sent to each county EMA office as well. Additionally, EMA directors from surrounding counties were asked to attend plan update committee meetings in hopes that they would share mitigation ideas. So quite a large number of participants in this process, so therefore we present this to you today for your review and consideration.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Commissioner Howard.
No question. Just thank Chief for your hard work and keeping us abreast.
Sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
No questions.
Commissioner Fletcher.
No questions.
Commissioner Warmington.
No questions.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No questions.
Commissioner Young.
No questions.
Any discussion? Commissioner Howard.
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Warmington.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a proposal to install speed bumps on the 2800 block of Phillips Drive. Mr. Maples.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, we were requested to look at the 2800 block of Phillips Drive. We did a study. The 85th percentile is 43 miles per hour. It met the threshold for considering speed tables. They garnered more than the 60% verifiable signatures for the study area. The design requires 5 concrete speed tables at a cost of approximately $37,500, which would come from T-Splost if it's voted on and approved.
Thank you, Mr. Maples. Any questions, Mr. Howard?
Mr. Maple.
Yes, sir.
When we were discussing it earlier with one of the speakers here, so we did our new revision of the ordinance reduced from 80% to 60%?
It depends on the speed. We didn't change, but it depends on the speed that is what the 85th percentile. It's still there with the 85th percentile. So it just depends on what you're coming up with in the study area. So.
Right, and like the facility, the person that spoke this morning, I can say in my ward that you have a lot of renters and there's a lot of speeders. So, but since we changed it, is there any way that we can look at when renters, property owners will not sign the petition?
That was a change in the traffic calming policy, is that you're allowed to, if you don't get the homeowners or the property owners to respond, then you can go to rental, especially where there's a large majority of rental property in the area. Then you can get their signatures, and then if they come back with the sufficient number of signatures, then it can be considered at that point. So.
But what if the renter just don't want to sign it? What can you do?
Well, it's always at the direction of this commission whether you want to install speed tables or not. So we would just make a presentation based on the information and the investigation that we come up with. I think there's also the phrase was added in there, and you correct me, Mr. Baker, we added in there that at the discretion of the city commission, you can direct city staff to install the speed tables. If we can't get the signatures or if it doesn't meet the speeding requirement, you have that right to direct city staff.
Okay, and can I get that new update?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maple.
Mayor Pro Tem, any questions for Mr. Maples?
No questions.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, I think I'm getting at probably something Commissioner Howard's getting at. Can you tell me what date this request started?
I can find out. I don't know exactly when it started, but it was, the people in Winterwood are very tenacious about their speed tables. Mm-hmm. And so there's especially one person that lives out there that is probably the biggest activist for speed tables. Mm-hmm. So once it gets going, once she initiates it, it doesn't usually lag long. But
maybe we need to get her in some of these neighborhoods.
She's if that's what you want.
Would you give me her name so I could pass it on? Yeah. Thank you, Bruce.
Ward 4 is the champion. So.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we know that.
They either have most people speeding or everybody's visiting their site to speed.
Mr. Warmington?
Yeah, kind of respond, Commissioner Howard. So I'm working on helping a group with the new policy, and I think we sent out 25 letters to business owners, and we got 2 back. And so we've already so that means we're done with owners. Now we're moving on to the renters. Right. And Miss Petty at Utilities, she just sent me the list of all the utility customers for those 25. So now we're going to go solicit the utility customers right. who are the renters of those units. And so, we suspect they'll all sign positively. So, again, it just reiterates, typically these out-of-town owners, you rarely get responses from, and so this will be the first one that we've aggressively worked towards the renter part of signing it. That's right. Because of the policy change that y'all made, or we made, that y'all recommended. So, one thing with this, Mr. Maple, so Phillips 43 is extremely high speed when the speed limit's 35. When 85%, it means a lot of people are going 50, probably even 55 on that section. Well, so this is where like the old Raleigh White Church is. Does it go all the way to Westover, or is it just the residential?
It's just that one block. It doesn't go all the way to Westover. But
okay. Kind of where I think that big warehouse is 2800, which is the 2800 block. So I guess it'll go from the warehouse into the neighborhood.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay. One concern I have, it just feels this way, that we seem to have more requests for speed tables than we're able to execute. So this is on the other end of the question. I know we're relying on one contractor. Have y'all had any breakthroughs in terms of being able to get these things installed any faster?
Well, the good thing is that recently our contractor has come back, and so he installed them on East Doublegate. That is complete now, except for the striping on it. So the 3 in East Doublegate are installed. He was working on Meadowlark this week, and they should be completed this week on Meadowlark, and then he'll be moving to the Winterwood subdivision. So in Winterwood, you have 5 that have already installed. There's 3 pending blocks in Winterwood that he's going to move into, and this will be the 4th one that'll be pending if you approve it in Winterwood. So there's a total of 9 in Winterwood when all this is completed. That'll be in the Winterwood subdivision.
So you feel the pace is going to pick up
Yeah,
of
he's showing
installing
that. He's showing that right now. We've expressed to him the need to move these things. That we get called constantly about construction lagging behind, and we've been pushing the contractor to try to get back into these areas, and he's shown that the last couple of weeks. So we're hoping that'll continue.
Okay. All right. That's it, Mayor.
Commissioner Langstaff?
No questions.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I do recognize that it does take a lot of very involved citizens to get this kind of pushed through, but I know 2 factors that weigh in with this is that we only have 2 of those machines.
Yes, sir.
How expensive are those machines, and do we need more just based on the
last
desire
time
for speed tables?
we had a bad situation when both of them went down. Both of them actually went out of service, and we had to ship them off. And then the COVID-8, our homework situation came up, and getting the company to repair them and get them back to us in a timely manner really put us behind. To answer your question, that they are relatively old, and at some point we will need to replace those things. So.
Okay. Based on the desire for more speed tables, I'm just saying, do we need to allocate more money to get more of those boxes?
Well, we can, yeah. We probably need to replace, start phasing and replacing some of them, or adding some of them. We got only so many staff people to go out and install them and then go pick them back up and analyze the information. So right now we're pretty much down to the 2 is about all we can get to. So.
Okay. And the second thing, I guess this is, for the board, is that, of course, this speeding, of course, is a policy situation. We did make those changes, but when we're talking about public safety, I don't think that should necessarily have to come down all of the time with citizens having to report or request something. We can recognize that there is a problem with speeding in our neighborhoods. It's also exacerbated by the fact that we are low on officers. And I think the chief said at one time that we've kind of, I don't know if we had I guess a traffic section or a traffic part of our police department who regularly, that's all they did, just try to get speeders. But we don't necessarily have enough officers to have that group of people who are concentrating on speeders. So now we're down to, and I think that's been the cause of a lot of the requests for these speed tables, because speed is up. I see people, myself, running lights, going fast, and I remember especially down Oak Ridge, when you could get a ticket like that for speeding down Oak Ridge. Now, I think the minimum speed on Oak Ridge now is like 65, but the speed limit is 45. But I don't see people traveling 45. You're going slow on Oak Ridge if you're traveling at the speed limit. So I think we need to look at, with these traffic calming measures and the request for speed tables, is maybe taking this out, looking at taking this out of the citizens' hands in terms of reporting this and getting those machines to gauge exactly where the speeders are, to give our police another tool in curbing this traffic problem that we seem to have. I know in the past year, I've had a couple of deaths on the south side, on ML King, on South Madison, and these are roads that are 35 miles per hour, so why people are getting killed on them tells me that there is excessive dangerous speeders out there, and we need to do what we can to catch them, but I don't think we need to just wait until citizens have to jump through all these hoops to get those measures out there. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Howard?
Bruce, you did say that if we can get the landlords to sign a petition, that is the discretion of this board, that we could look at our area.
That's my recollection of the change in the traffic calming policy, that if it behooves the commission and they decide to overrule city staff's recommendation or denial of the thing, it's up to y'all. Can always make a decision about whether you want to install traffic calming measures on a block or in a street. Is that correct, Mr. Davis?
Okay, so we can, like you said, overrule the policy, and your decision is to recommend, if we got an area that did not meet that percentage, we can ask for speed tables to be on.
I mean, it is a policy. It is something that is recognized nationwide, and that's why it was recommended. But it's always, just like we follow MUTCD, when we do a stop sign analysis, we have to meet warrants from a professional engineer standpoint. I have to follow those warrants to protect the city and to protect myself as a professional engineer. But it's always up to this commission, can always decide if you want to install something that I've made a recommendation that it doesn't need any kind of warrant. So.
Okay, so can I talk with you after the meeting? Sure. You don't? Okay, that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, I got two items that I'm going to bring up on this issue, but I think I'll bring it up under items for future agenda, so we can talk about it. Thank you, sir.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Yes, sir. I know we'll be having a public safety meeting on tomorrow. I think that's one of the issues we need to bring up, is that speeding in that meeting, to talk about how we can probably maybe even not just streamline the process, but use the measurements that you talked about to just go ahead and place those traffic calming devices wherever we need to, based on the data that's gathered by those machines.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is a presentation on the DCA Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Good morning, Ms. Brown.
Due to the negative financial impacts being experienced by families as a result of COVID-19, there are several programs targeted to assist those affected families by providing financial relief with their rents, mortgages, and utilities. Today, I will be presenting information on such programs, hoping that families will see this and will seek help due to the eviction moratorium having expired on July 31st. This expired moratorium once protected tenants from landlords evicting them due to non-payment of rent related to the impact of the pandemic. The programs being presented today are the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Program offered by the Department of Community Affairs, and 3 city programs provided by Community and Economic Development. Community and Economic Development has partnered with the United Way of Southwest Georgia and Strive to Thrive to administer its eviction prevention assistance programs. With me today are Ms. Barbara Tuck, our Community Development Manager, who oversees the programs, and Ms. Shanae Motley, President and CEO of United Way of Southwest Georgia, as well as Ms. Cindy Wisham, Community Impact Director, and they administer the programs on the city's behalf. We'll have the presentation, and all of us will be available to answer any questions that you may have. Perfect. Okay. As mentioned, the three programs that we'll be presenting information on today by the Department of Community Affairs, their Emergency Rental Assistance Program, the City of Albany's Eviction Prevention Rental Assistance Program, and the Eviction Prevention Assistance Program. The difference between those two is the latter program provides both rental and mortgage assistance. To provide an overview of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, the state of Georgia received $552 million. This program began by the Department of Community Affairs in March of this year. It is used to bring past due rent and utility payments current. Payments are made directly to the landlords or the utility provider. Up to 12 months of financial relief is provided, and both tenants or landlords can apply. The requirements for tenants to apply for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program is proof of identification, state, federal identification, military ID, driver's license, passports are acceptable. Income verification for every adult age 18 and older in the household. For DCA's program, what they would like for you to do is provide at least 2 months of your total household income just before, as a part of your application process. So if you're applying this month, you would need to provide both total income for the months of June and July. Past due rent notice or utility bills, the provider information and account number, a copy of the lease, and you would need to attest to unemployment eligibility or provide documents showing a reduction in income, significant cost, or financial hardship due directly or indirectly to COVID-19. And lastly, you would need to provide verification of risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability, and that's done via an eviction notice, notice of past due rent, or past due utility notice. For landlords, application for the emergency rental assistance, again, proof of identification. They would also need to provide proof of ownership of the rental unit or authorization or an agreement to act on behalf of the owner of the management company, a statement of delinquent rent for the tenant, and finally, a W-9 and bank information for ACH payment, which is the preferred method of payment by DCA to the landlords. How to apply for assistance. The web address for DCA for the emergency assistance is the georgiarentalassistance.ga.gov, and I kind of just spelled it out because it's all mushed there together as one web address. Once you go to the web page, you would click on the required documents tab. A pick list should reveal itself with several templates. Tenants, of course, would choose the tenant application template, and the landlords would choose the landlord application template. Once the application is completed, you would fax the application and other supportive documents to 404-393-8829 or mail it to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs to the attention of the Georgia Rental Assistance Program. The address is 60 Executive Park South, Northeast, Atlanta, GA 30329. One of the things that families providing for this assistance, as well as the assistance provided by the City of Albany, you have to be income eligible. What we use, as well as DCA, to determine if a family is income eligible is HUD's established income limits. And I provided today the 2020 HUD income limits. What a HUD looks at is the number of folks in the household. So using this income guide, a family of 4, the maximum income that that family can have is $43,750. I did check with DCA to see how the program was going last month, and as of July the 14th for Albany-Dougherty County, they had received 410 applications, paid 71 applications, and the total amount paid was $321,005, and they have scheduled $43,720 in additional payments, again, as of July 14th. Statewide, the tenant applications is 9,084. Total paid applications, 2,014. Total amount paid, $11.9 million, with $1.1 million scheduled to be paid. Now for our programs. We'll start with the Eviction Prevention Rental Assistance Program. The funding source for this program is CDBG, the CARES Act funding that we received. The amount that we've allocated for the program is $199,015. Just like with the DCA program, families applying would have to demonstrate that they were negatively impacted by COVID-19. The program pays up to 6 months of rent. We do utilize the HUD fair market rent, and the next slide I'll show more information on that. Tenants only can apply for our program. Payments are made directly to the landlords. We also have a certified HUD housing counselor on staff that works with these families who are applying for the assistance, and this staff also works directly with the landlords to negotiate the payments. And as mentioned, United Way does administer the program on our behalf, and there's some contact information there. The other program that we have is the Eviction Prevention Assistance Program. Again, the same funding source. We have allocated with this particular program $312,205. Same need to demonstrate negative financial impact due to COVID-19. This program pays also up to 6 months of rent or up to 3 months of mortgage payments. Payments are made to the landlords or the mortgage holder. And again, the certified HUD housing counseling agent works with the families and the landlords or mortgage holders. And this program as well is administered by United Way. The fair market rent documentation. As mentioned, our program pays up to 6 months of rent. What we use as a guide for that is the HUD established fair market rents for the Albany, Georgia metropolitan statistical area. For 2020, for instance, a 2-bedroom unit, the maximum that we can pay is $740. Just like the HUD income guidelines, the number of persons in your household is a determining factor. For the fair market rents, the number of bedrooms that your unit has is a factor as well. So going back to the $740 and our 6 months of assistance, we can provide up to $4,440 of assistance. That's the equivalent of 6 months of rental assistance. For our applications, to give you a status update of where we are as of July 15th, at the United Way had accepted 408 applications. 14 households had been assisted. The total amounts paid was $45,254. And I wanted to kind of document the primary reasons for denials, because you see there were quite a few applications that were submitted, but very few that were approved. And the problems that we're coming into, I think 171 of those applications, there's been problems getting all the documents submitted, even after repeated requests from United Way for that supportive documentation. And the last 167, they were not able to demonstrate that they had some kind of COVID-19 impact. Our third program that we operated was the Tenant-Based Rental Assistance COVID-19 program. That funding source was the Home Investment Partnership Program, or HOME. We had allocated $167,000, 68 households were served. We expended $158,440, and that particular program ended March 31st. This is just a recap of the contact information to take advantage of the programs. DCA's contact information, again, is the georgiarentalassistance.ga.gov, or they can call 833-827-8255. rent, or 833-827-7368. And for our program, the Eviction Prevention Rental Assistance Program, as well as the Eviction Prevention Assistance Program, for United Way, they can dial 211 or 229-883-6700 or apply online, as United Way does have a copy of our, have our application online to submit electronically. And we can leave that up, and we're open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Any questions, Commissioner Howard?
Ms. Brown, let me ask you a question, and it could be that not a good question, but I need to get some clarification. I receive a lot of calls from individuals that are on Section 8, and my question is that I don't know, but if a person is on Section 8, if they say if he or she is in Atlanta and they want to return back to the city of Albany, Georgia, and they will have to find a house, not find a rental house or property that would accept Section 8, right? So they can, there's no barrier between the 159 some counties. You can go from county to county, right?
If it is, now if it's project-based, and I'm not an expert on Section 8, I want to preface that by saying that, but what I understand is if it's project-based, then you have to use your voucher at a particular unit or housing complex. But if it's tenant-based, that tenant can take that voucher wherever in the state of Georgia. I don't know outside, but in the state of Georgia.
And is there a deadline that for he or she, before they can relocate back to Albany, that they will lose their voucher?
That I can't answer. I'm not really sure. I think I can find out information out for you from DCA, since we don't administer that program ourselves. The specifics I'm not aware of.
Okay. And so you wouldn't know from DCA how long can a person be on Section 8? Do you know?
I can find that one out for you too.
Okay. And Ms. Chantel, I apologize for not returning your call or email, but this garbage situation has been a nightmare for me until I feel like I need to go out and buy me a truck, trying to get the individuals in East Albany acclimated. But if it's God's will, I will give you a call sometime this month. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No question.
Commissioner Fletcher.
What I noticed, Ms. Brown, first of all, thank all of you, that you are sending this notice out in the utility bills, because I got a bill yesterday and it had that flyer in it. Are y'all doing Channel 16 any other ways? Because, you know, some of our customers aren't necessarily utility customers.
I believe so, because several months ago, when DCA first started its program, we began marketing it then to the community. Unfortunately, like I say, I'm not really sure why there's not more people taking advantage of it, but based on what I'm understanding is I think there are perceived barriers, because I think all over the country, you know, this program is available to households who've been affected. But it seems as though those same challenges that we're having in our community is pretty much nationwide. The need to demonstrate that you were impacted negatively by COVID-19.
I think that's it. I think that they're not proving that COVID's, because the ones that's got in front of me, when they've showed me the guidelines, you could clearly see that they didn't fit that program. I mean, they might have got behind, but they couldn't connect it to COVID related.
And unfortunately, we can't remove those guidelines because the funding sources, the Community Development Block Grant, there's income requirements, and that has to be documented, you know, by the administrators of the program.
Yeah, well, I mean, it should be. Y'all are doing what's right. There's guidelines, and y'all need to follow them.
But we have made efforts to advertise and on all of our outlets.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Ms. Warmington.
Yep, Ms. Brown, thank you and your team so much. I mean, these programs were the lifelines that so many people needed during COVID and continue to use. So I appreciate the work y'all done, and these are very important programs that y'all administered. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Langstaff.
No question.
Ms. Young.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all for administering this program. I was wondering if you all had any data or any idea of, I guess with the, right now, some of the discussions about the the number of people that will be needing rental assistance, mortgage assistance, now that the moratorium has gone off. Do y'all know kind of what, have an idea of what we'll be facing here in Albany in the coming months?
I believe I can get access to that information, because I think all we would need to do is call the courts to see, because I think they're just probably in the holding pattern, just waiting for that eviction to, since it's expired. So I can get that information and share that as well, Commissioner.
Okay. And I don't know, Mr. Carter, is there any way we can get some information from our lobbyists? Because I know they've been talking about it on Capitol Hill to see if there's going to be either more funding or something else that's going to be done, maybe even an extension of the moratorium now that our cases are going back up, you know, what their discussions are on the Hill.
We definitely talk to our lobbyists. I've seen indications that some of the Congress is interested in reinstating that moratorium, but I haven't really seen any movement on that.
Okay, all right. Thank you, ladies.
I do want to say that I did find an article, because I was searching last night to see if I can provide any updates about the moratorium. And I'm not really sure how this has happened, but in DeKalb, the judge there issued a moratorium there for DeKalb County. I don't know how that was possible. I don't know the laws and all of that. So I don't know if that's something that various communities can examine, but
right.
It did happen in DeKalb County, where they took it upon themselves to extend the moratorium.
Yeah, I did see, I know the story that you're talking about, and I think that came through, and maybe, I don't know, one of our, you know, attorneys can look into that to see if we can approach. I don't know who issued the other moratorium. Would it be the magistrate court, Mr. Davis, or would that come from the Superior Court in terms of issuing moratoriums like that?
A magistrate court wouldn't have jurisdiction to do that. That might be a federal court ruling, or it'd have to come from a higher up type court.
Okay.
Superior Court judge, something like that. I'm not aware of it. Phyllis, if you could send me that, I'd like to look at it. Thank you.
So did you say it would not be the magistrate court?
We have a magistrate court, but I don't know that they could issue a lift on something, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I think that, for example, only the Superior Court has injunctive powers, not even the state court or the magistrate court.
Yeah, it was DeKalb Chief Superior Court Judge Asha Jackson that did that.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any further discussion, Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further?
Mr. Fletcher?
Nothing further.
Mr. Warmington?
Nothing further.
Mr. Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Ms. Young?
Nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Y'all have a good day. Next is a recommendation to enter into a contract with Staples for an annual expenditure of $55,000. Mr. Williams, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. City staff recommends contracting with Staples Advantage per the Sourcewell contract as awarded as a result of the national public bidding process. This would be a firm price of one-year contract with 3 options to renew for additional one-year terms per Georgia Law 366013 for an annual estimated expenditure of $55,000.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any questions, Mr. Williams? Mr. Howard?
No question for Mr. Josh.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No question.
Mr. Fletcher?
No questions.
Mr. Warmington?
No questions.
Mr. Langstaff?
No question.
Ms. Young?
No questions.
Just for the edification of the public and my own information, so this is a $55,000 contract. What is it? We don't pay Staples, obviously, $55,000. It's,
No, this is
we're
a
authorized to make purchases up to $55,000.
Yes, sir. This is a just-in-time basis contract for various departments in the city to utilize these services as we need them. So as different departments need to order office supplies, they can order off this contract. So.
Okay, so Mr. Brown at Finance would order some office supplies and it would just be deducted from the $55,000. And we get an invoice for it.
Yes, sir. In essence.
Was it monthly we pay this?
By invoice as they make orders, they pay for it off the invoice. We have a blanket purchase order everyone can make receipts off of or use their P cards if they order online.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is, do we make monthly payments or do we pay every invoice?
We pay every invoice.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any further discussion? Commissioner Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher?
Nothing further.
Ms. Warburton?
Nothing further.
Ms. Langstaff?
Nothing else.
Ms. Young?
Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you all.
And next item on the agenda is shuttered venue recovery funding. And I guess this is for the Civic Center, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That would be for the Civic Center. It's a grant for or repayment for lost wages for any venue that has had to shut down for COVID. They can receive up to 45% of their gross earned revenue from the past years, based on previous past years, up to $10 million, whichever one is lower. And we are requesting authorization to submit this grant to the Small Business Association and approve if authorized acceptance of the grant if approved.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Potter. Any questions?
No question, Mr. Potter.
Mayor Pro Tem?
No questions.
Mr. Fletcher?
No questions.
Ms. Warmington?
No questions.
Ms. Langstaff?
No questions.
Ms. Young?
No questions.
One thing, Ms. Potter, I would think, shouldn't the people from Spectra be here to make this request?
This would be based through, because we are the owners of the venue, the city is the owner of the venues. We will be working with them with this request.
Do we have what the numbers are, what they can?
No, Josh is working on those as we speak.
Okay.
For those.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Howard?
No further discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher?
Is there a deadline on when this needs to get completed?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, nothing else.
Ms. Warmington?
Nothing further.
Ms. Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Ms. Young?
Yes, sir. I guess in light of what the mayor mentioned about Spectra, so just so I have an understanding, we still pay the employees that work for the Civic Center or the Flint River Complex? The city, are they city employees?
No, sir. Those are the Spectra employees.
Okay, they're all Spectra employees?
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess these funds are they specifically for, I guess, work-related things, or what does this go to pay for?
It's for lost revenues. For
Just
all
revenue,
the events.
okay.
Yes, sir.
I got you. And did they already get the, I guess, the PPP money? Did Spectra apply for that already?
I am not sure, but I will definitely check on that with Josh.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher?
Well, it does show that they did get a PPP loan, but it will be taken out of this
Right.
if we get it. Thank
That
you.
is correct. If we do get the PPE loan, it will be deducted from that 45% of what they would pay for this grant.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Ms. Warmington?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Langstaff?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young?
Nothing further.
I would, Mr. Davis, I was talking to some representatives at the Civil Rights Museum, and they advised me that when they finally got their PPP request in, the funds had been exhausted, so they didn't get any funds from PPP. But then also, it was their understanding, and I can't say whether they submitted a request under this shuttered venue program or not, that the Civil Rights Museum didn't qualify because they didn't have permanent seating. I think this is, would you look at that for us, please? They don't have an attorney.
Permanent seating?
I think that was the criteria they didn't meet. But I mean, what I mean is, if we've got some misunderstanding or miscommunication going on, the folks at the Civil Rights Museum need to submit the request if they qualify. You know, and if you would look at that
I'll take a shot at it, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Powell. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Next item on the agenda is opportunity to accept a Brownfield grant award in the amount of $480,850. Good morning, Mr. Forgy.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. This is a request to accept supplemental funding for the Brownfield revolving loan program that my department is handling. This is supplemental in addition to the $800,000 that we were funded a couple years ago. For this supplemental award is for $480,850. The purpose of the funds are to provide grants and loans for projects in the community that will clean up environmentally contaminated projects. It's for development, so it's not to clean up projects that unless it's a development project. So it's not just to clean up, it's to clean up to facilitate development. If you have any other questions about that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Forgy. Any questions, Ms. Howard?
No question from Mr. Fogel.
Mayor Pro Tem.
No questions, just once again, great job.
Mr. Fletcher.
Nothing else, thank you.
Mr.
Thanks.
Warming.
Nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Langstaff.
No questions.
Ms. Young.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Forgy.
Any discussion?
No
Ms. Howard?
discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing further?
Ms. Fletcher.
Nothing further?
Mr. Warmington.
Nothing further.
Mr. Langstaff.
Further.
Ms. Young.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Forgy.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda, the city manager's update.
Yes, sir. Just a couple items. One is there's been several town hall meetings with Commissioner Warrington and Commissioner Young, and staff has participated in all of those. I think there were great opportunities for us to get out and meet the citizens, and if any of the other commissioners are planning to do so, please invite us. We'll definitely come and attend. The other thing is with that Walmart solar initiative, we need to call a special call meeting to have a vote on that. Again, the deadline is August the 13th, and so we need to have a yay or nay before August the 13th.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Okay, next item. Well, let's get this, kind of distinguish this, and I confuse it myself. I'm going to ask now for items for future agenda, and then we'll go to other business. But items for future agenda, Mr. Howard.
Since you say you want to make the distinction and all that, Mr. Carter. Yes, sir. Is it possible that you, Bruce, and someone from the code can visit the East Lake apartment? Because as a Thursday, there was no work done yesterday, and the raw sewers continue to spill into the road.
Yes, we will.
Could we do it ASAP? Because you got 128 citizens in there, and it's a shame they got to smell that stench, with the weather being so hot and rainy.
We will.
Okay. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing at this time?
Mr. Fletcher.
Well, I'm gonna get greedy. I got three things. Mayor, sometimes it's a little tough to tell the difference between items for future agenda or other business. But one thing I want to say.
We'll get it straight.
Okay, thank you. I know you will.
Now, we're going to work through this.
One thing I do want to say to Ms. Brown back there, and I'm not saying that this is happening, but I know that I've had several people to call the EDC thinking that they were the community development, and then when the EDC says we don't know what you're talking about, or we don't have no program, or they might not be aware, it might be a good time for us maybe to look at changing one of them names, because it's the EDC would probably be easier to change because it does get confusing. And a second thing, and this is for Ms. Talbert, I'm getting some calls of people that want to sit on boards and really want to take a part. And I know at one time it seemed like we had a few boards open, so maybe if we could revisit that list, and I could reach out to some people. And now the third thing is, Mr. Carter, I'm going to say this to you, and I think I know I'm going to need the mayor and commission on this. Chief Pursley and Dr. Miles come to me several weeks ago, probably even 6 weeks ago, and needed speak. They gave us a parameter of some serious problems that was going on around Albany housing. Mr. Carter went around there and looked at it, and you know, naturally there come a problem when it come to getting signatures for the speed bumps. It was just what everybody's went through, what Dr. Miles has went through, and all of them. So I'm asking, can we possibly look at bypassing these signatures? When you've got Dr. Miles and you've got the chief of police saying this is a dangerous area and we need speed bumps, I would like to really look at maybe us bypassing that. Then I have another problem that you're well aware of, and the man got his signatures, Lippett Avenue, the principal of Monroe, signed for what was all of the school. Now what's tied up, Bruce, if I'm telling the story right, what's tied up is we need a letter from the superintendent that we aren't getting. Then the third place I have that, if I'm not mistaken, Bruce can tell me what happened on Barnesdale and 12th. I've got a gentleman in that area that's in a wheelchair. I'm not stretching it when I tell you the man almost has to get his mail at midnight because those cars simply don't stop. And I mean, that's just three crucial areas. That's 12th and Barnesdale's been going on for well over a year. Lippett is moving pretty quick, other than the fact that seems like the superintendent hasn't got out his necessary work.
I called Superintendent Dyer yesterday, left a message. He returned a phone call. He was returning he was at Hartsfield Airport returning. He did not understand that he needed to provide the letter. He said when he got back yesterday, he would write the letter, and that would satisfy everything with Lippett, and then we'll bring it to the second work session this month and get it going. So
that'd be great.
That's taken care of. So
that'd be great. Now, can you get with the chief and Dr. Miles and y'all? I mean, it's going to be virtually impossible to get signatures out of that area, but we just don't need to have a child or a senior or anyone get killed before we take it serious.
Can you tell me exactly what streets we're looking at?
Mr. Carter can.
Well, I drove around that whole neighborhood, but I'm not sure the exact street that you're interested in.
Well, it's four streets, and I'll ask Chief Pursley to call you immediately because they've really been wanting to.
If you can just give us those streets and the blocks, we'll do the study and get it going. So
I promise you'll have something from Chief Pursley shortly. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For future reference, Commissioner Fletcher, all that was other business.
Yeah,
okay. Like, Ms. Wilmington.
I knew you'd clear me up.
Well, I'm going to go off Commissioner Fletcher. I got 3 items as well. But I guess playing off Mr. Carter's comment, I would like to consider what he's talking about. I don't know if you're going to cover that, but if he's saying the deadline is the 13th, we're going to have a special called meeting outside of our normal 1st, 3rd, and 4th. So I guess I'll say that we need to schedule a meeting, I guess, to do exactly what he's talking about. So I'll support that. Another future item, and this was in the paper this morning, was news to me, but the state of Georgia is releasing $4.8 billion in American Rescue Plan money. And so supposedly there's a 30-day window that cities and counties can apply for sewer infrastructure, broadband, and negative economic impacts to this money. I don't know if, I don't mean to catch Mr. Carter cold here, but being it's a 30-day window, this needs to be an agenda item pretty soon. So if, whatever the direction of the board is to ask for additional, especially sewer infrastructure, we got 30 days to submit that.
Yeah, we get on that today and kind of figure out what the request is going to be for the board, and then we'll bring it to you guys, and you can direct us further.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know the criteria they're looking for, but certainly, we want to ask for a lot more than we kind of need, I guess, to make sure we get some. My last item, and this is directed to Mr. Davis. So I always appreciate the demo list, Mr. Davis. Unfortunately, I go back to the thing I always harp on, the 3 properties we're about to demo are all tax delinquent. One of them is actually being sold as we speak across the street. It was on the auction list. There was a property that came up in one of our town hall meetings that's on the city demolition list, and it's being auctioned off across the street. So it just seems like this tax delinquency issue. So one thing I was going to ask Mr. Davis, and maybe the next agenda item is I don't know if y'all could research taxes owed and maybe make another column here, just so even for our edification to know these properties that are tax delinquent. But I think the agenda item, Mr. Mayor, is once Nathan's office, Mr. Davis's office is aware of a tax delinquency, at some point there needs to be something involving us that maybe it's not worth going through the court system to get all the when we could just go acquire the property. But there's some pros and cons to doing something like that. But it just seems like the city always comes in on the short end of the stick with these delinquencies, properties that are 2, 3, 4 years delinquent, never been auctioned, but here we are demolishing properties. And Mr. Forgy kind of connected to this back when we had our task force, the Quality of Life Task Force. We had an item that we were going to bring to the city commission that we never did, but it was a vacant property registration program that you actually can have a vendor that they go out, and it's based on foreclosures, utility disconnects, Mediacom disconnects, AT&T. There's a variety of commercial indicators that this company can identify a property that's vacant. And that, again, that would give our office a heads up that if your cable's turned off and utilities are off, even there's a foreclosure, it gives you an indication that this property's vacant, and it would get it on the list quicker, and it's no cost to the city. So for the agenda item, maybe part of it is Mr. Forgy coming to present what our group really had talked about for weeks, had a vendor present to us. It just never made to the city commission. And then if Mr. Davis has some ideas of how to integrate these delinquent tax issues in the midst of demolition, because even Mayor, you mentioned when we had the presentation, 2, 3, 4 years of tax delinquent, we're already, the property's too far gone, it's just too hard to recover. So I don't know if that was enough rambling, but certainly Mr. Forgy's presentation, and then if Mr. Davis has an idea or two of how to integrate tax delinquency into your work with demolitions would be good.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Commissioner Langstaff, items for future agenda?
Nothing at this time.
Commissioner Young.
Yes, sir. I do want to start the process as we did vote on the alcohol moratorium last week, but start the process of getting that committee started, or however we're going to look at overhauling our alcohol outlet and alcohol licensing laws, and get that process of either getting a study committee together and having that put on the agenda fairly quickly. Also, and to go back into the situation with the speed tables, and this is just kind of for understanding, is that, you know, we have, again, the policy in place, and it doesn't seem to be a policy that's serving us. Right now we have a bunch of speeders. I'm asking right now, this is a picture submitted by Mr. Fitzgerald over in the Winterwood district of what's happening. They're actually taking our speed tables and using them as ramps with these motorbikes and different things. So we have to get on this right now. I think this still falls under purview of our police department, and I don't know if we have to go to the police to see if we need to get help from our state patrol. I know our state patrol at one point was actually patrolling Lippert Drive and giving out speeding tickets when I was dropping my daughter off to school at Monroe High School. So they were in our quote-unquote jurisdiction giving out tickets in our school zone. So I've already had deaths in my ward due to excessive speeders, so we really need to talk to our citizens. I think it's probably going to take a threefold effort. If we can start some kind of campaign, Mr. Carter, with our PIO, talking about speeding and the dangers of speeding, and also talking about the fact that we're going to crack down on speeders so people will know what to expect. At my town hall, there was complaints about speeding, and the chief did tell them, you know, in no uncertain terms, we'll put somebody out there and we're going to start giving out tickets. I think that was on Gordon Avenue, where we also have another speeding problem. So I think we've all today kind of have recognized that we need to do something about this post haste. So I hope we can get on that fairly quickly. So maybe an agenda item is maybe do a campaign, you know, with our public information department around the dangers of speeding, and also looking at partnering with our other law enforcement agencies to do a speeding campaign. I remember the heat campaign some years ago, so that may be somewhere we want to start as well as the speed table situation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Two items. First, I think we need to consider, I've talked about it before, mentioned merging the drug unit and the gang unit. It's never come before us, and I'd like to see the pluses and minuses of it. Next 60 days, if we can put that on the agenda. And the second thing, Mr. Carter, this is it's kind of dizzying, all these programs in the federal legislation, but I think it's several $billion that's been set aside for EV infrastructure. And I mean, our folks in Washington have done a good job so far. And what the Commissioner Nunn talked about, unpacking these legislation, let us know. But I think we talk about Walmart and these commitments. I would like the city to transition to a primarily electric fleet, and we have the opportunity to do that now. Mr. Bednar said, you know, technology isn't there, but the federal funding is available, and I would like to see the city request charging stations, and we could park our cars across the street over there and charge them during the day. I mean, this is something that the technology is here and the funding is available. So in my opinion, there's no reason not to take advantage of it.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Actually, we've had a conversation about initiating some electric vehicles in our fleet, talking about doing them as pool vehicles first. And I did see where, especially in the infrastructure bill that is being discussed now, there's several $billion set aside for EV charging infrastructure. So we may be able to combine those two things to get you what you're asking for.
All right. But yeah, let's put that on the agenda, see what we can do. I mean, if 3 commissioners don't agree with me, I'll just be on the losing side. But now, on the other business, Mr. Howard.
Mr. Mayor, and to the city manager, since we have seen a spike in this Delta variant virus, is it possible that you can do a press release to say that coming into city buildings that the mask is required?
I think that's the position. We've done that. Commissioner Howard wants a press release, is that right?
Absolutely, right.
Okay, well, I was interviewed the other day, and that's what I said. Well, it looks like there's a press conference as opposed to, I mean, I think it's more beneficial to have a meeting and hear from the healthcare, but that's, go ahead.
I think that's something you should do, Mayor, because, you know, we recognize you in the state of Georgia as the highest elected official in Albany, so you need to do one. And also, Mr. Mayor, and to Mr. Carter, that picture that was shown just a while ago, we need to do a public information, PIO person need to say that it is against the law to have these dirt bikes on city or county roads without helmets. I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Last weekend, I was out doing some work in the yard, in the garden, and I counted 24 four-wheelers dirt bike on Mark Road, no helmets or anything. They were just going up and going back down the road. And I'm well aware the chief said we cannot chase them. And we also need to do, Mr. Carter, do a person from the PIO saying that it is illegal to put a basketball goal on city streets. And I received several calls this weekend as of yesterday. Individuals are not putting the basketball goal on the curb. They are putting the basketball goal in the road. And it's not conducive, and it's an eyesore, and it gives the neighborhood a bad image. So we need to say, I guess, that you cannot put a basketball goal on city right away and because of fatality. And about these dirt bikes, and they usually start on a Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday evening. And hate to say it, but at the rate they're going without no helmet, it is almost like political suicide that something's going to happen because they have no respect for the cars. They make the donuts in the road, and they're also alarming that I've seen one that can go almost 100-some yards on the back wheel, no helmet or anything, and he's going down Mark Road about 30 or 40 miles an hour on one wheel, and that's only going to create a mass incident, going to hit a car or a truck or something going that way. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Nothing further.
Mr. Fletcher.
Well, no, evidently you said I killed two birds with one stone.
Mr. Warmington.
Yeah, I do have a good piece of good news to share. While we're here in the meeting here, the Economic Development Commission just announced another job expansion in Albany. Mr. Carter and I had a privilege of meeting with Pratt Industries over on Old Predoria, right across from Thrush, kind of a quiet little small business, but they're actually the 5th largest corrugated boxing company in the country. So they're a lot bigger than they realize, but 30 jobs, $18 million expansion. Actually, the warehouse is already under construction. They've already got concrete poured, walls going up. So another good news, manufacturing jobs over on Old Pretoria, right there at the airport and Thrush Aircraft. So it should be in the news tomorrow, hopefully. So
You talking about across the street from?
across from Thrush.
Yeah, yeah.
It used to be called Target Container.
Target Container now.
Right now it's
Yeah.
called Pratt Industries.
Yeah.
So if you go by there, you can see some construction going on. But
Yeah, it's a good company.
pre-
They're really
pretty
building
big
it
magnitude of construction, and 30 jobs is great news for our community. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Langstaff.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Young.
Nothing further.
On other business, this initiative, this news that the state was $3.4 billion. Is that what you said, Commissioner Warmington?
Well, the newspaper said 4.8 billion.
4.8 billion. I mean, if we could, Mr. Carter, I think our state lobbyist, Mr. Coleman, we need to get him on that, and particularly, let's get whatever we need. Mr. Coleman can probably tell us a proposal, because if we can get some more funding for the separation project, I mean, we clearly don't need to miss this opportunity.
And Mr. Mayor, we actually probably can send a letter to Senator Freddie Powell Sims. The governor has placed her specifically on the committee that is in charge of the stormwater sewer part of that $4.8 million.
That's obviously good to know. And we'll, however y'all want to handle that, if somebody can draw up a letter for me to sign, or, you know, let's do that, and I'll circulate it around and make sure everybody agrees to it. But let's get that done sooner rather than later.
Just before we, if you're finished, Mayor, just before
I'm not finished.
Okay.
Okay. The other two things, I got a call. I contacted Mr. Carter last week. Former Commissioner Arthur Williams had called me, and Commissioner Williams said that, you know, in the past, when the temperature got up in the upper 90s and even higher, we would open up the Civic Center as a cooling off place for some citizens. And I talked to Mr. Carter about that, and of course, now Spectra's running it, and Mr. Carter's gonna look into that, and if that's gonna be an opportunity, we need to let the community know.
We have alternate facilities that we use for even this weekend.
Okay. And
just
how do
because-
we let people know where they are, Mr. Carter?
We do, again, we do a press release and put it on Facebook. We
Yeah.
put it on Twitter, all those places that, you know, we think that people are
Okay.
looking to get the word out for.
Okay. All right. And then the last thing I want to say this for Mr. Carter. You know, we hear about people speeding and crime and vicious dogs today. Mr. Fitzgerald sends this picture up here. I mean, the city's doing what it can do. We put speed bumps up here. People talk about trash in the neighborhood. It's not city employees throwing this trash out. We need to press upon our citizens to be more considerate of others. You know, our police department and the reason people are speeding, and our public works department and the reason people throwing trash out. The animal control isn't the reason vicious dogs are running the street. Maybe we can do a better job of reducing these problems, but primarily it's citizens who are not being indifferent to their obligations as members of the community. With that, Mr. Carter, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Just to bring this up one more time, can we set a date for that special call meeting? I know a lot of us is going to be at GMA for the next few days. So Wednesday or Thursday of next week, if that is a possible date, can we go ahead and set a date and time?
Okay. Can we all get back to our office and look at our calendars and let Ms. Talbot know something?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? With that, we'll be adjourned.